Chapter 181 Ancient Fire Beast. According to Long Shui, there were a lot of lifeforms here, however, Chen Shang didn't find any signs of them. He only felt that this was a very strange place. Here there was a kind of bright green mist, as well as the mysterious beastly roar, not to mention the large number of lifeforms in the river stream. Chen Shang, after considering for a good while, walked along the river towards one direction. This was the direction from where the beastly roar was coming. He felt that this beastly roar was more akin to crying, as if crying for help. Little girl, you can also be considered as a beast. Can you understand what that demon beast's roar is trying to convey? Chen Shang asked. Long Shui was bouncing and vivaciously following behind him, and inside her mouth, there were a few good dans. She looked very adorable. This guy is simply roaring and shouting, it does not convey anything. However, I can ask him. But doing so will expose our whereabouts. Long Shui replied, while munching on those true elemental dans. Chen Shang, at this time, let the black tortoise adamantine armor appear on his body, guarding him from the erosion of the yin qi. What made him feel surprised was the fact that the yin qi down below was not so heavy. You ask that guy what is its background. If he is a powerful guy, we should pay attention to that point. Chen Shang said while touching Long Shui's small head, lightly pinching her headdress which was exuding a white light. Long Shui's whole body was covered in a snow-white dress, fair-skinned, which made Chen Shang very eager to bite on that cute and beautiful face of her. Little greedy dragoness, after thinking for a while, said, feed me a true elemental dan, then I will do it. Chen Shang ruthlessly pinched her face and then threw a true elemental dan in her mouth. Only after Long Shui ate it off in 2 to 3 bites did she slightly open her little mouth. However, she uttered a deafening dragon roar which scared the daylights out of Chen Shang. Very soon, a thundering roar came from far away. This time, the roar was completely different from before. This roar was carrying a kind of excitement with it. Moreover, it also echoed out a little bit longer. Long Shui wrinkled those cute, small and curvy eyebrows and said, this guy is the ancient fire beast and is actually trapped in this place. He really have a bad luck. Ancient fire beast, Chen Shang said in both surprise and doubt. He had never heard of this kind of demon beast. Su Meiyao exclaimed, is it the strange beast of 5 elements bred out from flames? This is a very powerful demon beast. As soon as it is born, it will have a terrifying strength. For example, if this ancient fire beast casually opened its mouth and spew out flames, it could burn off a mountain range. Immediately after, that ancient fire beast once again roared. Chen Shang, while walking over that direction, also learned that the ancient fire beast was trapped and he had nothing to fear. Long Shui softly laughed and said, this guy's luck is very bad. He was actually trapped by a person in here. Only after the black tortoise mysterious realm is opened will some of the restrictive spells trapping him would break open, and it can allow him to transmit its roar. And now that the black tortoise mysterious realm has dissipated, those restrictive spells don't have any use anymore. It can constantly roar. However, he is trapped in a very small place and cannot come out. Chen Shang was slightly taken aback. He speculated that the very same person who created the black tortoise mysterious realm was the one who trapped this ancient fire beast. However, who in the end was that person? Surprisingly, he was so powerful. Not only did he establish the black tortoise mysterious realm and the heavenly dragon mysterious realm, but also trapped an ancient fire beast down here. This guy is asking you to save him. He said that if you can save him, he will be extremely grateful to you. Long Shui continued speaking. The roar was constantly coming in order to convey the message. Chen Shang said with a frown, save? What if we are eaten off, then what to do? Long Shui replied, this guy's divine sense and strength have been sealed, so he could only send message across through the roars. However, if you are close to it, it can use its weak divine sense and communicate with you. This level of demon beast can directly communicate with humans. Chen Shang nodded his head and ran forward. He also wanted to get a glimpse of this ancient fire beast. 3 hours passed. Chen Shang was still running down the river, when he suddenly felt that it was not as cold as before, and the beastly roar was also increasingly becoming clear. He saw a huge cave entrance on a cliff just in front, and waves after waves of firelight was gushing out from the cave entrance. Is this guy very large? That huge cave on the cliff gave a fright to Chen Shang. Very large, at least as large as a small mountain. Long Shui replied. Chen Shang ran over, looking at the giant cave on the cliff across the river stream. He felt a scorching qi wave surging out from the inside. It was very hard for him to figure out how he could even feel heat in such a heavy yin-chi region. This, in itself, was the very proof of how powerful the ancient fire beast was. Long Shui pulled Chen Shang, floated high in the air, flew over the river stream and entered into that giant cave entrance. Inside the entrance, a fiery red aura was rising, with twists and turns like a snake wriggling. After Chen Shang entered the cave, he felt an even more scalding temperature. Deity is in the most deepest part, you can come in without any worry. If the deity wanted to hurt you, you would not even be able to walk in here. A powerful sound resounded in Chen Zhang's mind, it sounded as if it had some kingly spirit. Chen Shang mumbled in his heart, deity your head, you had been trapped here and you are still so haughty. I didn't expect a humankind would actually be able to get along with a dragon with imperial blood from the dragon clan. That ancient fire beast once again spoke. Dragon clans, imperial blood. Chen Shang turned his head and looked at the cute little girl only thinking of eating behind him. He had not expected that Long Shui would turn out to be one of the most noble dragon in the dragon clan. Originally, he didn't believe in the existence of a dragon, however, after encountering Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu and learning more about many of the confidential secrets from them personally, he finally had some understanding with regards to these noble lifeforms. And a dragon with imperial blood from the dragon clan were the strongest of the bunch. After Chen Shang had gone through a few bends, he finally saw the ancient fire beast. It was very huge, its size was that of a small mountain with an appearance of a lion, whose whole body was burning in red flames, and claws that were so huge that it could easily grasp an arbor. With such a humongous and terrifying body, it appeared very daunting. Black tortoise adamantal armor, you really obtained it. You frail human, how were you even able to obtain it? Not only did you obtain the recognition of the imperial dragon family, you have also obtained this powerful divine weapon. The ancient fire beast spoke. At this time, he was laying in a corner, while not far away in front of him, there was a greenish light screen, and he was unable to leave that light screen. Chen Shang was very unhappy, this ancient fire beast was very arrogant. However, him looking down on humankind was also justified. You don't want me to help you out? Chen Shang asked in an indifferent tone, he would not be afraid of this imprisoned ancient fire beast. The strength of this little imperial dragoness as well as yours is worse than I expected, you will absolutely not be able to save the deity. Ancient fire beast spoke with a cold snort. Chen Shang smiled, being unable to save you now does not mean that I won't still be able to save you in the future. It is an undeniable fact that in this world, I'm the only one who is able to come down here, because I have the black tortoise adamantal armor, you must have stayed here for a long time. If you can let me out of here, wait for me to increase my strength, I will definitely come back to save you. This huge mountain-sized lion suddenly lowered his head, and with a pair of enormous eyes flashing in flames, it looked at Chen Shang as it spoke in a heavy tone, show me your ability, if you can make deity see hope in you, deity will make a deal with you. Chapter 182, Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit. Chapter 182 Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit. After considering for a good while at the same time he had discussed with Su Meiyu and Bai Yuyu, Chen Shang was contemplating if he should expose some of his confidential secrets and let this highly proud giant lion take a look. Do you want to make a business deal with me? I need to take a look whether or not it's worthwhile for me to reveal my confidential secrets to you. Chen Shang asked. This was what Bai Yuyu suggested. If Chen Shang could get some benefits from this ancient fire beast, he shouldn't be afraid to reveal a few of his secrets. Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit, if you can make this deity see hope in you, I'll grant you the Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit which will allow your growth rate to be much faster. The ancient fire beast proudly said. Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit, hearing these 4 words, Long Shui, Bai Yuyu, and Su Meiyao could not help but gasp for a mouthful of air. Fire spirits were already rare. They were also divided into various different levels. Generally, a fire spirit rank was discriminated from its color. It started from red to orange, yellow, green, azure, blue, and finally purple. This way they were divided from low to high, red being the lowest and purple the highest. For instance, Wu Qianshan's blue star fire spirit could be considered a good fire spirit as well as a high rank one. Meanwhile, Elder Dan's purple moon fire spirit belonged to a higher class. However, the Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit has to be even better than these fire spirits. Although this fire spirit's color appeared to be the same as an ordinary red flame, it was also the most primeval flame. It was the flame of myriad things, transcending above the purple moon fire spirit. Generally speaking, all fire spirits were bred inside stars. These types of fire spirits were the most common, and the scorching sun possessed the most powerful presence among these stars. Worth it! Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu simultaneously shouted. Long Shui also clasped her small fists while watching Chen Shang. Chen Shang came to learn about the formidability of Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit from Su Meiyao and Bai Yu just a moment ago, which made him extremely excited. He had always wanted to have a fire spirit. With its help, alchemy would become easier. One must know, just relying on the brilliant flame dragon furnace, Chen Shang was able to refine dans much faster than others. While Elder Dan, even without this kind of alchemical furnace, was able to refine dans faster, she mainly had to rely on the strength of her fire spirit to refine dans faster. Chen Shang took a long deep breath and relaxed his body. Immediately after, a hazy Tai Chi yin-yang diagram appeared above his head. It was hard to tell if it was real or just illusionary. The Tai Chi yin-yang diagram was guarded by 5 solemn and serene divine beasts. The yin and yang divine vein. This is the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. The ancient fire beast's voice was filled with surprise. As he looked at that translucent Tai Chi yin-yang diagram above Chen Zhang's heads, flames fiercely gushed out from those large eyes. At this time, Chen Shang also took out a giant blade and poured his azure dragon true chi into it. Immediately after, a dazzling azure aura burst out from the blade. A lifelike azure dragon suddenly appeared at the center of the blade, emitting majestic dragon roars one after another. The azure dragon slaughtering devil blade. The ancient fire beast was once again taken aback by surprise. Chen Shang retracted the Tai Chi yin-yang diagram back into his dantian. When required, he could release it again. He dismissively said, "Is this enough? I also have a contract with this little girl, she will follow me for quite some time." The ancient fire beast suddenly started continuously roaring. It was so loud that Chen Zhang's eardrums started aching. Soon after, the ancient fire beast then broke into insane laughter while muttering, "This deity will very soon be able to go out, ha ha ha." Chen Shang pursed his lips, sat down, and covered his ears. Long Shui was holding Chen Zhang's leg. With a disgusted expression in her eyes, she looked at that suddenly insane giant lion. She was a dragon carrying imperial blood, naturally she would not be afraid of such things. However, the sudden insane roar made her feel very disgusted. "Don't shout, you give that heavenly sun fire spirit to Chen Shang, then we will discuss further." Long Shui tenderly shouted. "Do you know how strong I need to be in order to release you?" Chen Shang asked. "Around Nirvana 5th tribulation or so should be enough. According to this deity's estimation, in 5,000 years, you should be able to reach that level." The ancient fire beast spoke with excitement. 5,000 years in his eyes was unexpectedly quick. This fact made the corner of Chen Zhang's mouth slightly twitch. Nirvana 9 tribulations. After crossing each tribulation, one's power would increasing in multiple folds. The number of tribulations the individual had crossed was a confidential secret of many Nirvana realm martial artists. For instance, many people didn't know how many Nirvana tribulations all the major deans had crossed. Both Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were also unable to tell. However, Chen Shang knew the two sisters were definitely more formidable than the deans of the true martial sect and beast martial sect. There was also that great senior brother that Chen Shang had never met before, the last term's extreme martial sect's dean. After crossing the 9 tribulations, he had ascended to the heavenly realms. Under the circumstance where one had crossed all 9 Nirvana tribulations, every single one of them would automatically ascend to the heavenly realm, whether they want or not. Elder Dan and the other tycoons of the extreme martial sect, Lu Menger, the Empress of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire, were all considered eternal tycoons. However, they had still not ascended to the heavenly realms. It was perfectly evident from this just how difficult passing each Nirvana realm tribulation was. "So, do we need to sign a contract or something?" Chen Shang asked. "It's not required. This deity will inject my own consciousness into the heavenly sun fire spirit when I give it to you. If you don't come back here in 5,000 years, the heavenly sun fire spirit will disappear. This deity believes that you will definitely be fascinated by the heavenly sun fire spirit, although it is not the most powerful fire spirit." The ancient fire beast replied. Chen Shang could not help but be surprised. If the heavenly sun fire spirit was not the most powerful, then which fire spirit could be considered the strongest? At this time, he saw the ancient fire beast open its jaws as a tiny fireball gradually floated out. It looked like a miniature sun. The fusion with this fire spirit will be very painful. However, this is the most desirable thing by mankind. You have to endure, frail human. As the voice of the ancient fire beast fell, the tiny fireball flew over and disappeared into Chen Zhang's body. Chen Shang suddenly emitted a fierce roar. He personally saw Wu Qianchen fusing with the blue fire spirit, and that painful scene was still vivid in his mind. However, it was one thing to witness something, and another to personally experience it. At this time, he was rolling and howling on the ground in pain. Chen Shang felt his body was being tightly squeezed between two red-hot iron sheets. The scorching heat penetrated through his skin and entered his body, raging inside him as if it wanted to eradicate him into ashes. Hold on, operate the Vermilion Bird Divine Exercise. Su Meiyao hastily shouted. At this time, both she and Bai Yuyu were very tense. If Chen Shang was able to successfully fuse with the Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit, he would undoubtedly become extremely powerful. Regarding the field of alchemy, that did not even need to be mentioned. After Chen Shang operated the Vermilion Bird Divine Exercise, the scorching hot power madly surged into the Vermilion Bird Beast form inside his dantian. Simultaneously, he also operated the Tai Chi Subduing Dragon Exercise, accelerating the refinement of the power surging into his body, and essentially accelerating the fusion of the Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit. 3 days and nights passed. Chen Shang had been constantly rolling and howling on the ground. His throat was almost worn out from shouting. At this time, his cries became softer and softer, the pain was gradually being reduced. He just felt his entire body from head to toe, including his blood, contained a very powerful and intense hot energy, which would allow him to release powerful flames whenever he wished. These flames were nothing like the vermilion bird flames he previously cultivated, it was exponentially more formidable than before. The Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit had already fused into Chen Zhang's body, and fused into his soul. It had already become an inseparable part of his body, and even fused together with the Shinto infant soul inside his consciousness. Although he experienced a lifelong unforgettable pain, it allowed him to obtain tremendous benefits. Chen Shang looked at the vermilion bird beast form, and saw 10 true element grains exuding bright white light to his surprise. He had always been mainly cultivating the true element grains of the azure dragon, he had no expected that the 10 grains from the vermilion bird beast form would be illuminated first. This meant that while he was fusing the Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit, he obtained a large amount of fire-attributed true chi which was all compressed inside the vermilion bird beast form. Chapter 183, Past of the Fire Beast. Chapter 183 Past of the Fire Beast. After Chen Shang had gone through a torment that made him suffer a fate worse than death, he was able to find a little bit of comfort. At this time, he very much wished to use an inferior alchemical furnace to try refining a set of building foundation dans and take a look how much benefit did this Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit brought him. Of course he was currently more worried about leaving this damned place, this netherworld abyss was very deep, moreover, there was also a bizarre suction, which made it very difficult for Chen Shang to use the vermilion bird fire wing to fly up. I'm much better now, within 5,000 years, I should be able to come and help you leave this place. Chen Shang slightly sucked in a mouthful of air, his face was brimming with a happy smile, he had finally obtained the long-wished fire spirit. Big Lion, how will you send us up now? Long Shui asked. The ancient fire beast replied, this place have a suction force, all of this is because of the hot chi released by deity and the yin chi mixed in together. Now that deity have given you the Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit, you will not be again sucked in by this suction force. If you are still unable to leave this place even after this, then it is just because you are too weak. Chen Shang could obviously leave this place, even without the help of Long Shui now. Just with the vermilion bird fire wing he would be able to fly up, not to mention the newly illuminated 10 true element grains in his vermilion bird beast form. The vermilion bird true chi was now very vigorous, it could already be considered to have the same level as the second level of the true martial realm. Chen Shang nodded his head, if it is as such, then it will definitely be much easier. The ancient fire beast lowered its head, looked at Chen Shang and said, do you have to go now? Don't you want to know why deity was stuck here? The ancient fire beast had been trapped here for too long, and now that he saw someone, moreover, also the one who gave him hope, he could not help but want to say something. From its roar, it was pretty clear that it was very sad and lonely. Chen Shang nodded his head, lying on his back on the ground. With his head cushioned on a cold stone, looking at the ancient fire beast, he said, I'm in no hurry to go, I want to hear your story. In fact, he wanted to know who was the one who sealed him here. The ancient fire beast let out an emotional long sigh, then started talking non-stop. It happened a very, very long time ago, that he couldn't remember how long it was anymore. He only knew that at that time, by relying on the heavenly sun-fire spirit, he was born, and in order to continue elevating his own strength, he arrived down here, at this deep bottomless crack, in order to find the legendary Earth Core Fire. He found the Earth Core Fire and had also completely engulfed it. Afterwards, he slept down here. When he woke up, this place had turned into a heavy yin-chi zone. Moreover, a human mysteriously appeared, who laid down a lot of restrictive spells, trapping him in here, reasoning out that it was in order to punish him because he had swallowed all the Earth Core Fire. Humph, deity didn't simply swallow all the Earth Core Fire, otherwise, who can trap me? Deity, at most, only swallowed the flame seedling released by that Earth Core Fire. The ancient fire beast angrily spoke. Fortunately, there is an Earth Core divine tree in here, and very soon, it will bear fruit. On one side, when Long Shui, who was eating dans as if she was eating peanuts, heard the words of the ancient fire beast, she suddenly became high-spirited, with both her eyes shining. She asked, "Where is the fruit?" "What fruit?" Chen Shang smacked down on her head, laughed and said, "You only know how to eat all day. One day, you will turn into a fat dragon." The ancient fire beast shifted his huge body, and at the corner of one side, a 3-Zhonghai giant tree with red leaves became visible. On the tree top, 4 round things wrapped in flames could clearly be seen. That was the Earth Core Divine Tree. You can only see the very top of the tree, but this tree had grown up after penetrating many layers of the earth, and the Earth Core Fire is still deep down below. Deity has only eaten the Earth Core Fire that followed along with the top of this tree. The ancient fire beast's voice was filled with injustice. This injustice had trapped here for many years, making him extremely furious. Long Shui's beautiful big eyes were glittering like a golden star, gluttonously staring at those few, just about to mature fruits on top of the tree. Her small tongue was licking her lips, and her appearance was as if she had been suffering from hunger for a few months. "Big man, can you share one with me?" Long Shui spoke sweetly and greasily, with a kind of irresistible expression in her eyes, as she stared at that ancient fire beast. "Little dragon, deity's condition today can only be blamed at your imperial dragon's family. Only a guy from your imperial dragon family knew that I came down here looking for the Earth Core Fire. When deity woke up after being sealed, the guy that sealed deity was most probably related to your imperial dragon family." The ancient fire beast moved his ass and blocked that Earth Core Divine Tree. "Really stingy." Long Shui pouted and tenderly snorted, then she tugged Chen Zhang's sleeves, and once again, with that irresistible expression in her eyes, looked at Chen Shang as she cutely said, "Brother Chen Shang, I want to eat the fruit, can't?" Chen Shang pursed his lips, squeezed her face and said, "I don't have any means, unless this big lion give me one." "Deity can give you one, but you have to wait here for some time, because they still have not matured. During this time, you can cultivate in here. You have both Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise and Yin and Yang divine vein. Cultivating here will be much faster." Long Shui shook Chen Zhang's arm and spoke in a flighty manner, "Brother Chen Shang, I want to eat." Chen Shang mischievously laughed, "No way, I have only one. I also want to try. If you want to eat, hey, you know." He stuck out his tongue, and a little green liquid appeared on his tongue. This was the dragon saliva that could accelerate plant growth. Seeing this, Long Shui nodded in excitement, jumping up and down. "Don't expect planting the Earth Core Divine Tree. This is not any ordinary plant. It mainly relies on the absorption of Earth Core Fire to grow its fruit." The ancient fire beast disdainfully said, "Big man, you have 4, how about giving me one too? I'll become stronger in the future, and can also help you leave this place. I can promise you, if I find that sinister guy from my clan, I'll help you beat him up." Long Shui said while pouting. Her appearance was very lovely. Ancient fire beast was not a human. No matter how beautiful a woman appeared to be, in his eyes, there was no difference between looking at her and looking at stone. "I won't give." The ancient fire beast closed its eyes, laid down on the ground, and no longer paid any attention to Long Shui. Long Shui, who was facing the ancient fire beast, made a grimaced face, then angrily ate some dans. Chen Shang helplessly smiled, sat cross-legged on the ground and swallowed a building foundation dan. He began cultivating. He also wanted to quickly elevate his strength. Compared to those who had entered the extreme 3 state, his strength was way far off. "Surnamed Liu, don't think you won't need to repay the gambling debts this way. I will make you repay me 10-folds, no 100-folds. Chen Shang secretly said in his heart, as he operated the divine exercise. On one side, he was absorbing the yin qi, while on the other, he was refining the building foundation dan, and through this, he could cultivate a large amount of true qi, compressing it inside those 5 elements beast forms. Amidst his cultivation, Chen Shang didn't realize the time passing by, and Long Shui, this little greedy dragoness, ate fully then slept. After enjoying the sleep, she ate again, and so forth. At this time, her legs were hanging in the air like a turtle lying on the ground on his back and sleeping. With some saliva left on the corner of her mouth, and a bubble blowing in and out above her nose, it looked very indecent. Chapter 184, Earth Core Divine Fruit. Chapter 184 Earth Core Divine Fruit. Chen Shang had already eaten 3 building foundation dans and cultivated for a month or so. Upon seeing Chen Shang eat those building foundation dans, Long Shui became very envious and greedy. However, Chen Shang didn't give her so much as a glance before swallowing them. This made her very jealous. After swallowing 3 building foundation dans, plus absorbing rich yin qi, Chen Zhang's cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. A large amount of true qi was always surging into his dantian, compressed inside the beast forms. Those tiny true element grains were slowly being illuminated. At this moment, 10 true element grains from his azure dragon beast form had already been illuminated, catching up with the vermilion bird beast form. Afterwards, he began cultivating the black tortoise beast form. The black tortoise divine exercise was mainly for defense. The more vigorous the black tortoise true qi became, the safer Chen Shang would be. However, he had already obtained the black tortoise adamantine armor, so his defense was now very powerful. Although Long Shui ate true elemental dans every day, she was eating with a bowl and looking at the pot. Moreover, she was looking at 2 pots. Chen Zhang's azure profound fruit and the earth core divine fruit of the ancient fire beast. All day, she had been thinking about those 2 pots. This little greedy dragoness was actually very patient. Every day, she would pester the ancient fire beast. Once again, another month passed. Chen Shang had managed to successfully illuminate the 10 true element grains of the black tortoise beast form. In here, the yin qi was much easier to convert to water attributed true qi, which was also why cultivating the black tortoise true qi was much faster. Every single day, yin qi was being constantly absorbed by Chen Shang. In Chen Zhang's dantian, 30 true element grains had been illuminated. At this time, the richness of his true qi was far denser than someone from the same level. However, with this peculiar way of cultivation, he was still only at the first level of the true martial realm. Once 10 grains from all 5 divine beast forms were lit, the 5 elements true qi would then perfectly fit together. At that time, it could be considered as Chen Shang breaking through to the 2nd level of the true martial realm. His true qi quality would be sublime and his strength would increase by several folds. If he casted the universal true qi, then it would be even more frightening. Of course, because he was not like other true martial realm martial artists who congealed 9 beast form from true qi and fused as well as compressed them together. That's why the amount of strength increased would not be same as those ordinary true martial realm martial artists. However, it would definitely be a lot stronger. The 1st and 2nd levels of the true martial realm were very different. This was because, in order for a martial artist to advance into the 2nd level, they needed to first congeal 9 true qi beast forms, and then fuse and compress them together, turning it into a high-density, high-quality true qi beast form. If the martial artists wanted to again advance into the 3rd level, they would have to once more cultivate those 9 true qi beast forms of the very same high density and high quality, and fuse them together, and so on. This was why each stage would be a lot stronger than the previous ones. Meanwhile, Chen Zhang's way of cultivation was to illuminate the true element grains, so there was no need to fuse them. His cultivation amount was not much different than the others. Last time, when Chen Shang was besieged by 2 2nd-level true martial realm martial artists, he had almost lost his life. If not for the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade, this divine weapon, it would have been very difficult for him to kill them so quickly. Chen Zhang's Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade not only possessed the instant burst of hundreds of thousands jins of power, it could also easily cut through those strong true qi shields. As long as he slashed his blade with all his might, that blow would be very hard to block. This was the most frightening part of this divine weapon. While Chen Shang was in cultivation and Long Shui was sleeping, a sudden roar woke them both up. Both of them secretly cursed that huge lion. Random roars from time to time was somewhat scary. This deity's earth core divine fruit has matured, ha ha ha. The ancient fire beast started laughing. Long Shui quickly became very excited. However, after thinking about how there was no portion for her, her cute little face was filled with disappointment and she muttered, "Not going to give them to me for eating, what are you doing waking me up? You must compensate me, give me one." With his mane, the ancient fire beast plucked a fruit and threw it towards Chen Shang. Upon seeing a ball flying over with flame rising from it, Chen Shang hurriedly caught the projectile. Surprisingly, the fruit was rather big. Chen Shang had to use both his hands, otherwise he was unable to hold it. "Good, it's big, let me have a bite." Long Shui's saliva fiercely spewed out. With wide open eyes, she stared at the earth core divine fruit Chen Shang held. "All right, but just a bite. It's only because of this appearance of yours. Don't take me for some generous fellow." Upon seeing this little girl's pitiful appearance, Chen Shang knew that she had been crazily tortured these past 2 months. She knew there was some very good things, but she was unable to eat it. Long Shui nodded her head like a chicken pecking grains. She only wanted to try its flavor. Chen Shang sat on the ground and peeled that thick skin off, revealing the red pulp. Its appearance was very similar to that of a tomato. Immediately, Long Shui stretched her little mouth wide open. Moving her head closer, she took a large bite of that teared-up peel. Although she was just a little girl, the speed with which she ate was quite scary. Just as Chen Shang blinked, this little girl's mouth had already stopped moving. Her little brows were wrinkled, as if she was thinking about something. However, her eyes remained transfixed on that huge earth core divine fruit. "How does it taste?" Chen Shang asked with a smile. Long Shui licked her lips and said in a low voice, "Just a moment ago I ate too quickly, I didn't have the chance to try its flavor. Let me have another bite, this fruit is so big, let me have a bite again, there is still a lot left for you." Chen Shang smiled, squeezed her cheeks, "Well, take another bite." Long Shui was glad. She once again widely opened her mouth and took a large bite. This time around, she chewed slowly, eating very carefully. However, she eventually still swallowed down into her stomach. "It tastes very good, let me have another bite again." Long Shui spoke in a low voice. She still stared at that earth core divine fruit. Chen Shang helplessly shook his head. He took out a long sword, and divided the fruit into 2 halves. At this time, he saw a fist-sized seed at the center of the fruit. It looked like a gem with an intense flame burning inside it, it looked very beautiful. "Half for each of us, don't ask me for any more." Chen Shang collected the seed, it left him a chance to plant it in the future. Originally he didn't intend to give so much to Long Shui, however, he had not expected the earth core divine fruit to be so big, which was why he very generously gave her half. Afterwards, he once again sliced the fruit into few good portions. All of a sudden, there was so much fruit and there was plenty for him to eat, so he also wanted it to give it to Bai Yu and Su Meiyao and let both of them try this earth core divine fruit. Long Shui had not expected Chen Shang to be so generous, which made her secretly pleased. When she faced Chen Shang there was a pretty smile on her face, at the same time in her heart she was struggling a lot. She made a very tough decision, and eventually divided her own half into 2 and gave one half to Chen Shang. "I'll give it back to you, I don't need that much. I already said I just wanted to taste it," Long Shui said with a sweet smile. However, the expression in her eyes was full of sadness, making her overall appearance look very funny. Chen Shang had not expected the meat bun he had thrown to a dog to be returned. This little greedy dragoness surprisingly gave half back to him. However, she still wanted to taste it, a quarter of the fruit was still too much for tasting. "Humph, wasted deity's good intentions, even gave this little greedy dragon this much," the ancient fire beast said with a cold snort, as he also started eating one. Although there were many fruits, they were still not enough to even stick in between his teeth. Chen Shang cut that sliced melon-like piece into several small pieces. He wanted to slowly taste and savor it. Inside the ring, Su Meiyao and Bai Yu also did the same. Chen Zhang's actions showed that he was thinking about them, which also made them feel pleased in their heart. Chen Shang ate quite a few pieces. He had not expected this earth core divine fruit bred out from earth core fire to be so cold and sweet. It tasted great. It let him indulge in pleasures without thinking about anything else. He wanted to eat few more pieces, however, he had to leave some for his friends and for those 2 martial nephews and martial niece of his. Besides, it might be useful in the future for alchemy. After eating for some time, Chen Shang felt a hot sensation in his dantian, a bizarre and scalding hot power suddenly writhed in his body, surging into his limbs and bones. Just as it started to make him feel very uncomfortable, the feeling faded away and became very comfortable, as if a warm wind had begun blowing over his body. Chapter 185, 5 Elements Profound Dan. Chapter 185 5 Elements Profound Dan. After eating the Earth Core Divine Fruit, Chen Shang, Bai Yuyu and Su Meiyao could not help but close their eyes and enjoy that warm, comfortable feeling. Only Long Shui ate the Earth Core Divine Fruit in large gulps. She was cultivating Shinto, so she could not feel the bodily benefits brought by the Earth Core Divine Fruit. For her, it only felt tasty. When Chen Shang opened his eyes, 10 days had already passed. It was totally out of his expectations that such a small piece of Earth Core Divine Fruit would actually give such tremendous benefits to his body. It elevated his physical strength by a lot. Sister Meiyao, Sister Yuyu, I had a strange sort of energy in my body. It appeared to be light gold in color. Chen Shang surprisingly found this scene upon looking inside himself, so he quickly consulted with the two sisters. You have actually entered the second stage of Immortal and Devil body. This Earth Core Divine Fruit is surprisingly very useful for you. This is very good. Su Meiyao spoke with surprise. Bai Yuyu said, we just cultivated for 2 days and completely refined the Earth Core Divine Fruit's energy, while you needed 10 days. It is clear that your body is currently very weak. After you completely absorb this Earth Core Divine Fruit's energy, the benefits are pretty obvious. This is still a divine fruit. It should have also gave no small benefits for you too, right? Chen Shang said doubtfully. The Earth Core Divine Fruit was a very high-rank herb after all. We ate very little. Besides, we are unable to completely absorb its energy. If combined with other herbs and refined into a dan, its effect will certainly be very great. This is indeed a divine fruit. With this kind of herb you can refine a divine dan. Su Meiyao's words made Chen Shang secretly astonished. He still had the Earth Core Divine Fruit seed and he definitely wanted to culture this tree. One must know, Chen Shang needed to use both his hand to completely embrace this huge fruit, and they had only eaten a small part of it, yet it still brought them tremendous benefits. If he ate some of it again, the combined effect would definitely not be so simple. Chen Shang was secretly somewhat scared. Meanwhile Long Shui, this little greedy dragoness, had a look of pure satisfaction on her face. It was the first time Chen Shang had seen her eat something with such an appearance. Young man, this deity will wait for you to come back. Don't disappoint this deity, the ancient fire beast said in a heavy tone. Chen Shang nodded his head, then I'll take my leave, I'll definitely come back and save you. With Long Shui, Chen Shang traced back his steps. The ancient fire beast roared again and again, giving them a unique send-off. However, Long Shui would often look back along the way with a dismayed appearance. She missed the ancient fire beast's Earth Core Divine Fruit. Little girl, don't think about it. Sooner or later, I'll grow this tree. Chen Shang touched her head. I just don't know what month or year this will be possible. Long Shui stuck her tongue out, and transformed into a white flash, returning onto his arm. Chen Shang arrived at the cave entrance, and looked at both sides of the abyss. He came to know from the ancient fire beast that there was indeed some life, deep down below in this abyss. It was just that these lifeforms were at the depth of both ends of the abyss. These lifeforms were very dangerous. The ancient fire beast exhorted Chen Shang at least 1,000,000 times to not go anywhere near there. Looking upward at that green mist, Chen Shang mobilized his true chi as the vermilion bird true chi soared through his body and was released. After the fusion with the heavenly sun fire spirit, the vermilion bird true chi had become even more overbearing. Immediately after, a pair of 10-jong-wide fire wings suddenly appeared on his back. Those intense chi flames were constantly gushing forward, confronting with that yin chi. Chen Shang was secretly astonished upon seeing that pair of huge vermilion bird fire wings behind him. This was a clear example of the benefits from fusing with the fire spirit. As long as he utilized the flames, it would become several times more powerful. He could also manipulate it as he wished. Those huge wings fluttered as Chen Shang quickly left the ground and flew straight up, quickly penetrating the numerous layers of yin qi. At this time, dealing with that rich yin qi was simply a piece of cake for him. Of course, if he didn't possess the black tortoise adamantine armor, it would not have been this easy. To reach the top, you still need quite some time. Taking advantage of this, you should take that dan you obtained in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. Su Meiyao suddenly said. She had just remembered about this matter. Chen Shang gradually soared through the dark abyss. He replied, what is this dan? The last time when he acquired the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade, he got a Dragon Blood Dan. It allowed him to successfully cultivate his Immortal and Devil body to first level. Now this Dan accompanying the Black Tortoise Adamantine armor should certainly be marvelous. Bai Yu replied, it's a 5 elements profound Dan, a high-grade earth level Dan. It contains very rich true chi of 5 elements, and can be quickly refined. It is very precious, however, when compared with the Dragon Blood Dan, it is still somewhat lacking. Surprisingly, it was a high-grade earth-level Dan. Chen Shang sucked down a mouthful of cold air. Although the Dragon Blood Dan he ate last time was formidable, it didn't have an accurate rank assigned to it. However, this 5 elements profound Dan had, and its rank gave him quite a shocking surprise. Even the low-grade profound level building foundation Dan was extremely precious, let alone a high-grade earth-level Dan. Chen Shang took out that 5 elements profound Dan. It was a white Dan with the size of pigeon egg. After looking at it for some time, he swallowed it in one go. Long Shui let out a tender snort in jealousy. After 5 elements profound Dan entered into his body, 5 rich elements of true chi quickly gushed out from the ingested Dan. It was like a large river suddenly began flowing, surging into his limbs and various parts of his body. After running a few cycles, the energy entered into his dantian, while the 5 elements profound Dan kept on releasing the true chi of elements, as if it was endless. On one side, Chen Shang was flying, while on the other, he exercised his powers and accelerated the refining. A day passed, however, that 5 elements profound Dan was still constantly releasing true chi of 5 elements in a steady stream. He was actually dismayed in his heart by this. If only he had much more of this Dan, wouldn't he be able to vastly elevate his strength in an even shorter time? However, he knew that the herbs for refining this 5 elements profound Dan were definitely very rare. Don't think of refining this Dan, this kind of Dan is rather common only in the heavenly realm. However, you can try refining the 5 elements true elemental Dan. That is a low-grade profound level Dan, however, its herbs are also too hard to find like the herbs of the building foundation Dan. Su Meiyao replied. Acquiring these herbs caused a headache for Chen Shang. He had been constantly accumulating wealth, precisely for these rare herbs. If he encountered them, he would not hesitate to buy them at any costs. Afterwards, with the help of the dragon saliva, he could grow a large number of these herbs. I also want to eat. Long Shui grumbled, who would not want to? Chen Shang himself wanted one more Dan, but he didn't have any. However, at this time, the Dan in this body had still not been digested. Multitudes of true chi was constantly being compressed inside the 5 elements beast forms. Those true elements grains were constantly being illuminated one by one. It was amazingly fast, making Chen Zhang's heart crazily pound. This was precisely the enchantment caused by the high-grade earth-level Dan. He now understood why high-level alchemists were considered noble existences. This was obviously because high-level Dans could allow martial artists to cultivate many times faster. Holy shit, this speed is too quick. Chen Shang was extremely excited. At this time, the 5 elements beast form true chi degree inside him was also like him constantly soaring, making him extremely pleased. Ha ha ha, Chen Shang burst into a wild laughter as he finally broke through the darkness and flew out of the netherworld abyss. At the same time, he had also entered the 2nd level of the true martial realm. With such an easy breakthrough, he could not help but laugh cheerfully. Chapter 186, Turbulent Times. Chapter 186 Turbulent Times. Chen Shang flapped those huge but very flexible vermilion bird fire wings and exited the netherworld abyss. He landed on the ground, enjoying the warmth of sunlight. He had stayed down for 3 months, and the absence of sunlight in that place made him very uncomfortable. Regarding the 5 divine beast forms in his dantian, 15 grains had already been illuminated in each beast forms. These 15 grains were evenly illuminated under his control. At this time, the richness of true chi in all of the 5 beast forms was exactly the same. This made him feel that the difference between his current and previous strength was like heaven and earth. Although he was currently in the 2nd level of the true martial realm, he had confidence that he could challenge a 3rd level true martial realm martial artist unarmed. Lu family, look how I fix you up. I'll make you pay with blood. Chen Shang clenched his fists and madly roared. A tremor suddenly ran through the ground, one after another, cracks spread in all directions. In the forest, the birds that were resting were immediately scared and flew into the air in a panic. One after another, beast roars resounded from the forest. Chen Shang spread his wings and soared into the clouds. At this time, his vermilion bird fire wings size could be changed. If they were bigger, he could fly even more faster and its strength would become even more powerful. Of course the consumption would also be many times more. Although at this time, he was using the smaller version of Vermilion Bird Fire Wings, his speed was still 10 times faster compared from before. The aura exuded by the wings was also different from the past. Before, they were in a fiery red color, but now, they were like glaring sunlight, as if a god had flew out from the sun. Chen Shang, while in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm, had crippled a lot of true martial realm disciples from the Beast Martial Sect, True Martial Sect and the Free Immortal Sea. In these past 3 months, these 3 forces have been looking for Chen Shang for trouble, however, even Chen Zhang's shadow could not be seen. The extreme martial sect's attitude was also very firm, they were not willing to pay and were also not going to punish Chen Shang. Many people knew that after entering the Black Tortoise mysterious realm, they were unable to use their true chi inside, however, Chen Shang was somehow able to. That was why he could cripple this many true martial realm martial artists, and he had even crippled a few extreme realm martial artists, moreover, he crippled all of them in one breath. When this information spread, many didn't believe it, however, as the time went on, many people found out that the true martial realm disciples of the Beast Martial Sect and True Martial Sect were indeed fewer, only at this time was everyone convinced. The most shocking thing was that Chen Shang had not even spared his own school disciples. However, his approach was supported by many people, because at that time, all these true martial realm martial artists wanted to seize the big hell spirit grass and those huge monster dans that he had obtained. Accompanied with the tragedy that occurred inside the Black Tortoise mysterious realm, the Free Immortal Sea gradually surfaced. This was a giant force established offshore of the Chenwu mainland. Nobody knew the true circumstances about this force, however, rumor has it that they could be a super sect on par with the extreme martial sect. Because Chen Shang could not be seen, the True Martial Sect, the Beast Martial Sect and the Free Immortal Sea had no way to target the Extreme Martial Sect. Private fights between sects disciples only included individuals, it had no connection with the sects themselves. Of course, the secret hidden was even more shocking, and that was Chen Shang had all of a sudden killed a good few Nirvana realm martial artists, and also killed the dean of the Beast Martial Sect. Not many people knew about this matter, and they would not even reveal it, because it would not bring any benefits to anyone. This would only exacerbate conflicts between the few sects within the Chenwu mainland, and this would cause great chaos. The martial artists of both sides of these sects would suffer, and at last, the 5 devil sects would be the fisherman between the clam and the snipe asterisk. TLN asterisk. It is an idiom, more about it you can browse here web links. In a huge square in the extreme martial sect, many disciples were surprisingly gathered, and the atmosphere was very serious. Ji Yu Dongchen, Elder Dan and Wu Kaming were standing on the stage, while in front of them, there were some old men and women whom many of the disciples have never been seen before. Just behind these old men, there was a team of capable and vigorous young men or burly middle-aged men, with an extremely cold complexion. Their whole body was saturated with powerful qi, and these people were also a bunch of individuals which many of disciples had never seen before. This made numerous extreme martial sects disciples secretly amazed, because today, the individuals gathered were disciples and high-level executives who were rarely seen. Elder Courtyard's elders, and also the disciples of the usually empty martial courtyard from 1 to 10 were also present, they were the backbone of the extreme martial sect. At this moment, there must be some important matter to announce. Since the events at the Black Tortoise mysterious realm had occurred, the extreme martial sect's members were jittery. The extreme martial sect had not only killed the dean of the Beast Martial Sect, they had also killed 7 Nirvana realm martial artists of the Beast Martial Sect, the True Martial Sect and the Free Immortal Sea. This was something unprecedented. Nirvana realm martial artists had rarely fallen in these 10,000 years. However, this made many forces and many more people feel dread for the extreme martial sect, given that they had surprisingly started slaughter in such a way. Of course, no one else knew that all of these was the work of Chen Shang. Everyone should know what happened this time. 10,000 years ago, the extreme martial sect also encountered such a crisis. At that time, we easily crossed it. While this time too, we will definitely be able to handle it. I know that currently, all of you are feeling restless, and some are afraid of other sects' revenge. Ji Yu Dongchen loudly said, his voice reverberated in the whole extreme martial sect. Ji Yu Dongchen, after a pause, continued speaking loudly, I have called everyone here today to tell you 2 things. First, our extreme martial sect is absolutely not afraid of other sects' revenge. If they dared to kill even a single disciple of our extreme martial sect, we will make them buried with 100 disciples of theirs. Igu Dongchen will hold my words true. His words made every disciples of the extreme martial sect calm down. Their dean had spoken, so they would certainly be fearless. Second thing is regarding the new rules of the extreme martial sect's martial courtyard. Starting from today, aside from the extreme martial sect's elder courtyard and the extreme Dan courtyard, there will only be 50 martial courtyards, wherein there will be 15 inner martial courtyards and 35 outer martial courtyards. The 15 inner martial courtyards and 35 outer martial courtyards will be managed by bunch of true martial realm disciples or disciples with equal strength. They will be responsible for imparting martial skills. This is to enhance the overall quality of inner martial courtyards, and everyone is required to double their efforts. And every half a year, an assessment will be held, and if the disciples are not up to the standard, they will be sent to the Hell Martial Courtyard and accept the Hell training. Gu Dongchen's voice was extremely cold. Many people could not help but feel a shiver ran through their spine just because of his voice. Hell Martial Courtyard, what place was this? At this time, Elder Dan dryly coughed twice, silencing the noisy square. In the future, if welfare is not fixed, and if you want Dans, you have to deal with me. I have found some disciples are no longer cultivating and have always been idling about, not doing any mission, and yet they are receiving generous benefits. From now on, if you want to receive Dan, you need to use your strength and potential to prove yourself. The specific rules could be learned from the head of your own martial courtyard. Wu Kaming, at this time, also spoke in a serious tone. Starting from today, all of your rhythm must be a bit faster. The competitions will be more brutal, and in turn, the rewards will also be even more lucrative. I want to train a bunch of outstanding disciples. In the coming days, the extreme martial sect will set up many martial art competitions in order to promote rivalry between everybody. It will allow more exchanges between everyone. Extreme martial sect suddenly had such huge changes, and this made many disciples feel extremely doubtful. They were contemplating whether or not the extreme martial sect did so in order to cope with the possible outbreak of great battle between sects. Disperse. Gu Dongchen's voice faded, his pupil fiercely contracted while looking at a pair huge and shocking fire wings in the sky far away. Those were Chen Zhang's fire wings, however, it was much larger than before, and it was also emitting a glaring aura like the sun. Elder Dan and Wu Kaming also immediately noticed. Both of them sighed in relief in their heart, however, they were extremely shocked. Surprisingly, Chen Shang was able to return from the netherworld abyss, and from his fire wings, it was evidently clear that his strength had been elevated a lot. With a burst of blazing hot chi shrouding over, everyone looked up and suddenly saw a pair of dazzling fire wings. Although these fire wings had become much larger, many people still recognized that these were Chen Zhang's true chi fire wings. Chen Shang had been missing for 3 months, and he was finally back. From Xi'an Sha World, Chapter 187, Slaughter Qi. Chapter 187 Slaughter Qi. Only a few people knew about Chen Shang falling into the netherworld abyss. Lu Sheng didn't dare spread this information out, otherwise it would be very easy for suspicion to fall on his head. After all, Gu Dongchen made him keep it a secret. Chen Shang swooped down from the sky and landed in front of those elders of the elder courtyard. He frowned and carefully glanced through those old men. Soon, his gaze transfixed on Lu Sheng's figure. Upon seeing Chen Shang had returned, Lu Sheng was even more astonished in his heart. He remembered that before Chen Shang fell into the netherworld abyss, he was heavily injured. It was absolutely impossible for him to come out. However, facts proved otherwise. He was currently standing alive and well right in front of everyone. Lu Sheng had lived for so long, yet this was the first time he had been so panicked. However, he soon restored his calm demeanor. He decided that he would rather die than admit what happened, no matter what Chen Zhang's accusations were. Once Chen Shang returned, he said nothing, just gave a deadly stare towards Lu Sheng. The expression in Chen Zhang's eyes were giving off murderous intentions. Gu Dongchen and the other members of the trio had already noticed that something was about to happen. They started having some doubts and suspicions regarding this matter. After all, the Lu family still owed Chen Shang the gambling debts, 3 building foundations Dans and a 9 sun flames fruit. It was quite painful for the Lu family, however, if Chen Shang was dead. An old man of the elder courtyard loudly shouted, "Chen Shang, you're too impolite." Just as that old man finished speaking, a large blade suddenly appeared in Chen Zhang's hands. He poured his true chi into this large blade as an azure aura burst out. Simultaneously, an intense slaughter chi gushed out from Chen Zhang's body, just as his figure disappeared. This made many elders shocked. Just as many of them wanted to act, Ji Yudongchen coldly snorted. "All of you, hold your hands." Chen Shang suddenly felt a pressure enveloping his body, constricting him for being able to swing down his blade. He had already reappeared in front of Lu Shang and all the elders were extremely shocked. They didn't understand why Chen Shang wanted to so recklessly and ruthlessly attack Lu Shang. They admired his courage even more, daring to do such things even in the presence of the dean. This was extremely disrespectful. Once the front row elders and a few true disciples were able to see what was happening, they were stunned. Chen Shang actually dared to attack an elder. Looking at his posture, it was highly likely that he wouldn't regret killing that elder no matter what. Chen Shang had even chopped up the dean of the beast martial sect and killed a few Nirvana realm martial artists. Was there anything he would be afraid of? At this time, his slaughter chi was unimaginable. He had been cultivating that slaughtering heart slaughter chi would be accumulated constantly, not only after killing someone. At the same time, it would also absorb the slaughter chi possessed by the deceased. It must be known that the dean of the beast martial sect, as well as those Nirvana realm martial artists, had all killed no small number of people. At this moment, the accumulation of all that slaughter chi had gathered in Chen Zhang's body, just imagine how frightening this was. Chen Shang had already been restricted by Ji Yudongchen, but that fierce slaughter chi was still surging out, enveloping the whole square. This made many people's heart tremble endlessly in fear, shivers ran down their spines. This vast and dreadful slaughter chi made everyone feel suffocated and short of breath. On the high stage, Ji Yudongchen, Elder Dan and Wu Keiming couldn't help but be astonished. Even they were unable to understand how Chen Shang possessed this level of slaughter chi at such a young age. These eternal tycoons had also accumulated a large amount of slaughter chi, however Chen Zhang's amount was many times beyond theirs. If you ignored Chen Zhang's strength, just his slaughter chi alone would make it very easy for him to be mistaken for a Nirvana realm martial artist. Lu Shang was the closest person to Chen Shang, and was also the target of his killing intent, which was why Lu Shang was also the one who could most clearly sense the formidability of the slaughter chi, which made him extremely horrified. Disperse. Chen Shang had ignored the elders, and then tried to attack an elder, violating the rules of the extreme martial sect. Elder Wu will carry him down and severely punish him. Ji Yudongchen loudly shouted. Wu Keiming flew down, arrived behind Chen Shang, held his shoulder. Chen Shang converged that unconsciously overflowing slaughter chi, however, his eyes still carrying murderous intentions towards Lu Shang. Lu Shang saw Chen Shang was being taken away, and proudly smiled. However, in his heart, he was still secretly worried. But after he thought about it, he was an elder, both his identity and strength were a lot stronger than Chen Zhang's. Furthermore, Chen Shang had again provoked a bunch of people. He reckoned that the dean would not even hear out Chen Zhang's complaints. Chen Shang followed Wu Keiming and left. In the extreme martial mysterious realm, in a relatively secret place, there was Elder Wu's residence. The two were there along with both Ji Yudongchen and Elder Dan. Young martial uncle, it's good that you've safely returned. However, in the future, you should pay some attention. Don't do such outrageous things again, it makes my job very difficult. Ji Yudongchen had a look of helplessness on his face. Humph, that elder surnamed Lu must die. Chen Shang clenched his fists. Elder Dan coldly asked, young martial uncle, did you truly fall down in the netherworld abyss? Chen Shang snorted, I was precisely thrown down by that elder surnamed Lu. I was struck by his palm and seriously injured. If it wasn't for the black tortoise adamantine armor being able to resist that yin chi, I would already be dead. Wu Keiming's voice became extremely cold. We trusted that guy, yet he actually did this kind of thing. Just a moment ago, he was also very calm. He most likely thought that we would not hear you out or trust you. Ji Yudongchen slammed his palm on a stone table and smashed it to pieces. His whole face was brimmed in anger. Not only had Lu Shang wanted to kill Chen Shang, Lu Shang had also deceived them. This made Ji Yudongchen extremely furious. Dean, you destroyed my table. Wu Keiming said with a bitter smile. It's just a table, nothing more. Are you planning to haggle about these things with me? Ji Yudongchen suddenly discovered that this was not his home. He had overdone it. Seeing this, Chen Shang secretly had a good laugh. Elder Dan gently said, it's good that you came back alive. Were you able to reach the bottom of the netherworld abyss? Even Huang Jishan had not reached the bottom during those days, while Chen Shang currently had the black tortoise adamantine armor. Furthermore, those fire wings of his were also significantly larger, so it would not be very difficult for him to come up from below. Chen Shang was very pleased upon seeing that these two martial nephews and niece were rather concerned about him, and were not as heartless as he had imagined. He happily smiled and replied, "Of course, I also brought back a good thing. Come, your martial uncle missed you very much down there." Chen Shang took out 3 palm-size earth core divine fruit pulps, and placed it on 3 dishes. He let the trio have a taste. Although this earth core divine fruit was bred out by the earth core fire, it wasn't only beneficial to fire-attributed martial artists, it was beneficial to everyone. Looking at that tomato-like pulp wafting with a bizarre aroma, Ji Yudongchen and the rest of the trio all wanted to taste this thing Chen Shang retrieved from the bottom of the netherworld abyss. A piece for each one, they completely ate it all at once. For that kind of taste and flavor, all 3 of them were not short on praises. During their repeated praises, they were suddenly startled. The trio immediately sat down cross-legged, and circulated the earth core divine fruit's energy in their bodies. Chen Shang also wanted to see how effective this earth core divine fruit was on Nirvana realm martial artists. Taking advantage of these 3 tycoons digesting the benefits brought by the earth core divine fruit, he quietly left. Chen Shang was ready to take a trip to the Herb King Mountain, and seek the Lu family to settle their accounts. Chapter 188, Wild Ambitions. Chapter 188 Wild Ambitions. Chen Shang arrived at the martial courtyard of Yun Xiaodao and others. He immediately saw that both Yun Xiaodao and Zhu Rong were busy moving their things. Squinted Dragon, Chen Shang asked. He had not seen Yun Xiaodao and others for 3 months. To his surprise, he found the true qi within their body was actually a lot more vigorous. He secretly thought that these guys definitely had a fruitious encounter. Upon seeing that Chen Shang had returned, Yun Xiaodao put down the tree in his hands and ran over, shouting with a loud laugh, "Elder brother Chen, you're truly a masterpiece. All of a sudden, you've crippled so many true martial realm martial artists." Yun Xiaodao had already received the news, and was extremely excited afterwards. However, he was also a little worried about Chen Shang. It should be known that the majority of the true disciples he had crippled came from powerful families. Zhu Rong ran over, smiled and said, "Chen Shang, in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm you must have acquired a lot of good things. If you have any intention to sell them, for the sake of the friendship between us, I'll definitely give you a good price." Yun Xiaodao kicked his foot, and shouted, "Go fuck your mother, dead fatty. You are not even sparing your own friend and dare to try and cheat him. The deeper someone is acquainted with you, the more badly you'll make them suffer." At this moment, Shu Weilong returned. When he saw that Chen Shang was here, a stiff smile appeared on Shu Weilong's face. "I thought you were going to hide for forever." "What are you saying? I'm not going to be afraid." Chen Shang laughed. "Ha ha, now I'm also a little eager to catch you. The Free Immortal Sea, the True Martial Sect, and the Beast Martial Sect have all posted a reward for you. Each one of them have offered 1,000,000 crystal stones. In addition, the families of the true disciples you crippled had also offered some rewards. Currently you are now worth 10,000,000 crystal stones." Zhu Rong loudly laughed and declared. Chen Shang was shocked in his heart. A grand total of 10,000,000 had been posted as a reward for his head. This large bounty even made him tempted. However, after thinking for a while he came to realization. After all, he had crippled more than 100 true disciples. If the families of these disciples all posted even a tiny reward, reaching such a sum would be an obvious outcome. As early as a month ago, many people started creating squads one by one, as if they were hunting a precious beast. You have to be careful. I think not long after, Tianmen City will become very lively with many people waiting for you outside. Shu Weilong said. Yun Xiaodao snorted. It's not stopping there, even some small scrubby families and a number of assassin organizations are eyeing for you. However, elder brother Chen's means are many, you should be fearless of them. Chen Shang mischievously smiled. As long as that statement of Ardeen still counts, I don't have anything to fear. If the people targeting down Chen Shang had higher cultivation than him, then the entire elder courtyard of the extreme martial sect would be dispatched. Such power, no matter how many families gathered up, were still not enough to destroy or even match the fearsome strength of elder courtyard. Now only a few small forces under the support of squads came here to kill Chen Shang. Are you very busy right now? Chen Shang asked. Not too busy. The allocation of the martial courtyard had nothing to do with us. We are only waiting for the allocation results to come out, and then we will directly go to that martial courtyard. Regarding the alterations of the martial courtyards, that's something outer courtyard's disciples have to worry about. Yuan Xiaodao said with a smile. Chen Shang took out 3 pieces of the earth core divine fruit's pulp. He have been together with Yuan Xiaodao and the rest for so long, and understood their characters and natures. They were worthy for a long-standing and deep-rooted friendship. That's why Chen Shang bluntly gave them this divine fruit to eat. Anyway, he would be able to grow them in the future. This is some good stuff, Zhu Rong said as his eyes shone, while he rubbed his hands. Chen Shang smiled and said, Lao Zhu, if you want to eat it, you have to help me do one thing. Just say it, Zhu Rong readily agreed. Help me clearly understand the ins and outs of the Lu family. Chen Shang lowered his voice and said. After hearing Chen Zhang's request, Zhu Rong nodded his head. Yuan Xiaodao and Xu Weilong glanced at each other. Knowing that Chen Shang might do something that would make him go missing again, they were secretly worried. Xiaodao, Squinted Dragon, you guys have always been trying hard to succeed your families. The competition in your families is also no doubt very brutal. Blood brothers always each trying to hoodwink each other, are you not feeling tired? Chen Shang said with a happy smile. Elder brother Chen, whatever you want to say speak freely. Yuan Xiaodao sternly said, Father is already tired, for me, my family is now the most disgusting place to be. Nevertheless, I'm still somewhat happy being here. Xu Weilong also nodded, if nothing else, I'm also too lazy to go back. At first, I didn't want to compete for the family position. However, some people thought that I would fight, and were worried that I'll pose a threat to them, which is why I was forced to compete with them, otherwise I'll be toppled. Zhu Rong also sighed. Among the children of these large families, there were not any deep feelings. Chen Shang smiled and asked, have you ever thought of establishing your own force? After hearing this, Yuan Xiaodao, Zhu Rong and Xu Weilong could not help but be startled. They had thought it over, however, it was not an easy thing to do. But now that Chen Shang brought it up, it was clear from his words that he also wanted to establish his own force. If we unite, we can secretly nurture our own force. Leave the dance to me. Lao Zhu is responsible for resources, Xiaodao, you are responsible for training and nurturing, while Squinted Dragon is responsible for finding people who have intentions to join us. Chen Shang explained, he already thought of this plan beforehand. No problem, I'll also take out crystal stones. If Lao Zhu had to bear the cost alone, then he certainly wouldn't want to participate. Yuan Xiaodao immediately nodded in affirmation. I also agree, since we have a level 4 alchemist, I'm also extremely confident. Xu Weilong agreed. Chen Zhang's alchemy speed and quality of the dance he refined was obvious to everyone. If they had a lot of dance to offer, it would also be easy to rope in other people. Even more important, it would be easier to make their force grow stronger very quickly. Zhu Rong took a deep breath, smiled and said, I also want to do this. It can be considered a big investment for me, a big business deal. However, in order for me to get back returns, it will probably take a very long time. Chen Shang laughed and said, good, after you finished eating this thing, follow according with my guidelines. Xiaodao, you are responsible for gathering martial exercises and skills. Lao Zhu, you first go and gather intelligence about Lu family. Squinted Dragon, you are responsible for finding those who are not affiliated with any families, however, those martial artists must be very hard working in cultivation. Zhu Rong asked, younger brother Chen, what do you want to do with the information about the Lu family? Chen Zhang's complexion sank. When I went to investigate the Black Tortoise Mountain, just a little away from the Tianmen city, I was attacked by 2 second-level true martial realm martial artists. They were both from Lu family, or sent by Elder Lu. Since the Lu family wants me dead, I cannot allow them feel any better. After Yuan Xiaodao and others heard, they suddenly came to realize why Chen Shang suddenly attacked Lu Shang. Only they were curious, wasn't Chen Shang carried down for punishing? How was he so quickly released? Zhu Rong and others ate the earth core divine fruit, and then entered a state of cultivation. Seeing this, Chen Shang quietly departed and returned to the extreme Dan King courtyard. It was quiet in here, he looked everywhere but didn't see Wu Qianchen, so he was forced to return to his private room for alchemy. Since quite a while back, Chen Shang wanted to see how quickly he could refine dans after using the heavenly sun fire spirit. Chapter 189, An Astonishing Speed. Chapter 189 An Astonishing Speed. Chen Shang was an alchemist, he should be occupied with alchemy all the time. However, he was occupied with too many things right now, and if these things weren't handled well, he would be unable to learn how to refine new dans with a calm heart. This was why he was still only able to refine high-grade spirit-level dans at best. True Elemental Dan, the most commonly and also relatively better-priced Dan. This Dan was given compulsorily to disciples by many of the sects, because this kind of Dan contained a large amount of true qi. Before, it took Chen Shang half an hour to refine one set of herbs. However, with the heavenly sun fire spirit, he was now able to release flames like hot sun which quickly baked the herbs into herbal powder. At the same time, it also made those oppressive herbal spirit qi calm down. Now he finally understood why alchemists with the fire spirits were able to refine dans so easily and leisurely. The flames released by the fire spirit could easily bake the herbs while also suppressing that oppressive herbal spirit qi, and also could easily make various herbs fuse together. Chen Shang was also using that core quality alchemical furnace, but even then it only took him half an hour to refine one set of true elemental dans. Furthermore, 5 dans were refined out at once and all of them were of high quality. This made him secretly excited. If the brilliant flame dragon furnace was used, then wouldn't the speed be even more terrifying? Inside the Black Tortoise realm, he obtained enough herbs that he could almost refine 10,000 sets of true elemental dans. Furthermore, in accordance with his estimation, he would be able to refine at least 4 dans with each set. Refine using the brilliant flame dragon furnace now. I want to take a look the fastest speed that can be reached. Su Meiyao was also excited. Of course, Long Shuiyi was even more excited than her, because this meant that she would be able to eat more true elemental dans as well as more often. Okay. Chen Zhang's heartbeat became faster as he took out the brilliant flame dragon furnace. If he could refine dans faster, that meant he could quickly obtain a large number of dans. Such as the true elemental Dan, albeit commonly used, he would still not lack them even a little bit. An hour passed. Chen Shang had already refined 10 sets of true elemental dans. He had not expected that coordinating with the brilliant flame dragon furnace would actually allow the process to be even easier and smoother, 10 times faster than the ordinary alchemical furnace. The most surprising fact was that he could utilize each set of herbs to the extreme and thus refine 5 true elemental dans with each set, and each of those of high quality. Ha ha! Chen Shang started loudly laughing, and gave 10 dans over to Long Shuiyi. At this moment, he had not shortage of these true elemental dans, and now he was even more confident in nurturing his own forces. Another hour passed. Chen Shang had refined out 20 sets of white jade dan, 2 dans in each set. If Elder Dan this Dan founder came to know about this kind of speed, it would definitely scare the daylights out of her. Even Su Meiyao was having difficulty believing this speed. Sister Meiyao, Sister Yu, you can now eat a lot of dans, would you be able to recover your strength this way? Chen Shang asked. It would not work. It would only serve to waste these low-grade dans. If want us to recover, only a high-grade dan can finish the job. You should leave these dans for your own growth. Bai Yu replied. 5 days passed. Chen Shang suddenly felt someone was outside. In these 5 days, he had already refined 1,200 true elemental dans and 120 white jade dans. If they were all exchanged for crystal stones, it would be quite a vast fortune. However, Chen Shang would not use them indiscriminately. He wanted to exchange these resources to acquire even more precious herbs, that way, he could quickly elevate his strength. Chen Shang took a bath, before coming out to the hall. He saw Jiyu Dongchen, Wu Kaiming and Elder Dan waiting for him in the hall. Chen Shang noticed that Jiyu Dongchen's and Wu Kaiming's complexions were pretty good, their faces were glowing along with a slight smile on their face. Chen Shang could see that the Earth Core Divine Fruit had brought them a lot of benefits. At this point, Chen Shang was certain that Bai Yu and Su Meiyao were far stronger than these 3 tycoons of the extreme martial sect. According to Bai Yu and Su Meiyao, even the Earth Core Divine Fruit had little effect on them because their bodies had already reached a certain stage. Such a small amount of Earth Core Divine Fruit had only a tiny effect on them. Young martial uncle, what was that thing in the end? After eating it, I felt that my body has become a lot more stronger. Jiyu Dongchen said while laughing. Now, when he was referring to Chen Shang as young martial uncle, it came out fluently and smoothly. Jiyu Dongchen was calling Chen Shang this from the bottom of his heart, not reluctantly like before. Wu Kaiming also laughed and said, young martial uncle, you should have gotten a lot of good things in the netherworld abyss, right? Elder Dan uttered a low scoff, and said, if it was used to refine dans, its usefulness could be displayed even better. If I knew it earlier, I would not have eaten it. Sure enough, you little girl knows your stuff, hey hey. I specifically left some to give it to you three. This martial uncle of yours, is fairly kind. Chen Shang sat on a chair, crossed his legs, and said with a happy smile. After thinking about it, Ji Dongchen and others felt that Chen Shang was indeed acting more and more like a true martial uncle. Not only had he saved them at the most crucial moment, he also gave them this precious thing. It should be known that Chen Shang was currently very weak, and this kind of thing would be more useful for himself. However, he still gave some of it to them. This act of his moved their hearts. Hey, you do not need to thank me, this is what a martial uncle should do. Chen Shang said with a proud smile. He then lowered his voice, I'm planning to act against Lu family. A while back, when I left for the Black Tortoise Mountain, 2 second-level true marital realm martial artists attempted to assassinate me on the road. They were sent by the Lu family, I almost lost my life. The Lu family is acting against me again and again, I cannot let them go. As you wish, this is your personal matter, we old men will not intervene. Wu Kaming laughed and said. Then you have to be careful, Lu Shang is a lot stronger than you. You have already provoked him, he may also act recklessly against you. Ji Dongchen warned. Chen Shang was obviously not afraid of him. After Ji Dongchen and Wu Kaming left, he asked Elder Dan, where is Qianchen? How come I haven't seen her? Humph, she went into closed-door training. Why are you looking for her? Elder Dan uttered a low snort. Give this to her. Chen Shang once again took out a piece of earth core divine fruit, and handed it over to Elder Dan. Elder Dan was surprised for a moment, she had not expected Chen Shang to be so generous. He was actually willing to give this kind of thing to Wu Qianchen. Elder Dan knew very well this kind of unknown pulp was definitely a very high-grade spirit fruit. Not to mention the true martial realm Wu Qianchen, it was greatly beneficial even for Nirvana realm martial artists. You are truly promiscuous, might I remind you still have a fiancé? Elder Dan said with tender scoff. It seems she was rather jealous, this caused Chen Shang to be surprised. Are you not going to use it to refine Dan? Elder Dan still felt it was better to use this mysterious fruit for refining Dans. Of course I will when possible. However, do you know how to refine with this? Which herbs can go with it? I know it takes a lot of attempts, numerous trials and errors to figure this out. However, I only have a little of this stuff, is it enough for you to fiddle around for few attempts? Chen Shang pursed his lips and said. Elder Dan could only let out a soft snort, because what Chen Shang just said made a lot more sense. These are the herbs I gathered for building foundation Dans, a total of 15 sets. You said before, if I wanted to buy building foundation Dans I can trade with you. Elder Dan handed Chen Shang a storage pouch. She had not expected that one day, she would ask others to help her refine Dans. Who would have thought Chen Shang could refine more building foundation Dans than her, and even more so, twice the amount at once. Chapter 190, Fire Spirits Crisis. Chapter 190 Fire Spirits Crisis. Chen Shang received the storage pouch and looked inside. There were indeed 15 sets, and were already well processed, lacking only the azure profound fruit. So now let's talk about the price. Chen Shang mischievously smiled and said. Even if it was Elder Dan, he would mercilessly slaughter her with one strike. 300,000 for one Dan, I'm also providing you with the majority of the herbs. Elder Dan immediately replied, apparently she had already considered this well beforehand. The price was quite generous, especially for Chen Shang. With one set of herbs, he was able to refine 4 building foundation Dans, a grand total of 1.2 million crystal stones. An azure profound fruit could equally be sold for 1.2 million crystal stones. 400,000. Chen Shang scratched his ears, while with other hand he extended 4 fingers. Humph, I'm not as rich as you imagined. Elder Dan coldly snorted and said, Martial uncle, please be a little kind. Chen Shang felt somewhat funny, Elder Dan was actually using this as an excuse to keep the price down. If I auctioned my building foundation Dans, it could be sold for more than 300,000. If operated it properly, it could even be sold for double. Chen Shang said dismissively, he didn't offer even slightest bit of concession. He didn't believe for a second that Elder Dan was not rich, she was someone who have been living for thousands upon thousands of years. Besides, she was also an alchemist, and was also so powerful. Not to mention she was also in charge of Dans and a lot of crystal stones in the extreme martial sect, how could such a person be poor? Chen Shang firmly believed that she must be overflowing with riches. He sighed and said, Forget it, I had good intentions to sell you, but you are being perfunctory to me with such a low price. You truly broke the heart of your martial uncle. As you wish, 400,000. After properly refining them, come find me. Elder Dan stamped her foot, turned away and left. She certainly knew the price stated by any alchemist could not be counter-offered. Chen Shang secretly calculated that with 15 sets of herbs, he would be able to refine exactly 60 building foundation dans. He intended to just give 50 to Elder Dan, and leave 10 for himself, this way he could still get 20 million crystal stones. However, no one would generally use so many crystal stones as payment. They would usually use dans instead of crystal stones for such a large amount. If true elemental dans were used here, then it would be equivalent to 4,000 true elemental dans. Chen Shang also began refining building foundation dan. He estimated that it would take some more time for Yun Xiaodao and others to wake up. With the help of the brilliant flame dragon furnace, refining the building foundation dans had also become very fast. However, in order for Chen Shang to refine 4 dans at once, he became more careful. If it was before, he would unscrupulously refine, and compared with refining the true elemental dan there would be no difference between the speed. However, it was somewhat slower now. In 1 hour, Chen Shang was able to refine 5 sets of herbs, with 4 dans in each set. Moreover, the quality was also excellent. Chen Shang was extremely satisfied with this result. He secretly praised the formidability of the Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit. After acquiring this Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit, even when baking some relatively oppressive herbs, he was able to easily deal with them, which left him a lot more time. 3 hours passed. Chen Shang had entirely refined all 15 sets of building foundation dan herbs with 4 dans per set, each with excellent quality. Chen Shang was considering whether to go and deliver them now or not. He was worried that Elder Dan would faint from shock with this kind of speed. That being said, Chen Shang liked to show off in front of this extremely proud woman from the start. So, with a proud smile, he left his private room, arrived at the room of Elder Dan and knocked. Seeing Chen Shang came so quickly to find her, Elder Dan coldly asked, "Is the price not appropriate? Do you still want to add some more?" Chen Shang laughed and said, "If you want to add some more, I would certainly not refuse." "Then why did you come?" Elder Dan asked. "I came to deliver 50 building foundation dans, take it." Chen Shang threw a storage pouch to Elder Dan. She subconsciously caught it. She found it difficult to believe. Only 3 or so hours had passed, and Chen Shang had already refined 15 sets of herbs. Elder Dan took out the 10 boxes from the storage pouch. In each box, there were 5 building foundation dans. All of them were still warm, releasing rich herb fragrance into the atmosphere, signifying very good quality. With just a glance, she knew they had refined out recently. This made her completely dumbfounded. In just 3 hours, Chen Shang had refined 15 sets of herbs of building foundation dans, furthermore, with such quality. Elder Dan found no sign of any sort of trickery. How? Elder Dan still could not believe, although the facts were right in front of her. Hey, you are not only one with the fire spirit." Chen Shang mischievously smiled. Elder Dan's whole body quivered. She said in a quivering voice, You have fire spirit. Come in and tell me about it." She pulled Chen Shang and dragged him inside her room. "Which fire spirit?" Elder Dan asked in a heavy tone. She appeared very serious, and Chen Shang wasn't clear why she was acting like this. Chen Shang said in a low voice, "Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit." Heard these 4 words, Elder Dan's body trembled a little. She was gasping for breath. She sat down on a chair for a long time in silence. Chen Shang didn't know why she would receive such a blow. "What, now do you think that you'll lose? You said that if I defeat you, you will comply with whatever I ask." Chen Shang teased while smiling. "Humph, the Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit is indeed better than my Purple Moon Fire Spirit. However, you have to remember, in any case, you should not let anyone else know that you have a fire spirit. I also instructed this to Qianqin, so that she would not arbitrarily expose her blue flames. Fortunately you have Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit, the flames don't look like anything special." Elder Dan seriously said. Chen Shang felt doubtful. He suddenly found that Elder Dan turned so mysterious because he now owned fire spirit. It seems that she had hidden Wu Qianqin very thoroughly. "Chen Shang, you better listen, I'm certainly not trying to scare you. In this world, there is an extremely powerful influence. This influence is dedicated for hunting those who have fire spirits. They possess a method to forcefully pull out other people's fire spirit." Elder Dan suddenly stopped. She clenched her fists as her voice became heavy with resentment. Pure hate could be detected in her voice as she resumed speaking. In the Purple Moon world, they have already arrested many alchemists who possessed fire spirits. Afterwards, they pulled out their fire spirit, destroying their cultivation. Chen Shang frowned. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu's complexion also turned serious. It seemed that they knew a little about this matter. This force has not extended their hand in this world for now. In short, many mortal worlds have their shadow. They are also very powerful. They would intentionally suppress their cultivation to the pinnacle of the Nirvana realm. After they forcibly ripped out the fire spirit, they would then send it to the heavenly realm. As for how they do such a thing, I'm not clear on the matter. Elder Dan said. Chen Shang seriously nodded his head. I will pay attention to this, now pay me. After Elder Dan learned Chen Shang had a fire spirit, she was no longer surprised with his speed in alchemy. She secretly praised Chen Shang for his alchemy talent. Given some time, it would not be any trouble for him to surpass her. Elder Dan thought Chen Shang had easily earned so much wealth, she could not help but utter a low snort. You want crystal stones or true elemental dans? Elder Dan asked. True elemental dans. Chen Shang knew that many auction houses received true elemental dans as payment in place of crystal stones. True elemental dans were considered consumables, moreover, many sects need it. Not to mention they were required in small numbers compared to crystal stones, and thus easier to store. Elder Dan clenched her teeth before handing over 4,000 true elemental dans to Chen Shang. If any other sects could get so many building foundation dans at once, not to mention 4,000 true elemental dans, they would readily pay 5,000. Elder Dan knew that she was getting a bargain and Chen Shang had indeed given her a great discount. From Xi'an Sha World, Chapter 191, Golden Dragon Saliva Part 1. Chapter 191 Golden Dragon Saliva Part 1. Chen Shang silently calculated how many true elemental dans he had. Adding on those he had previously refined along with those he had obtained by participating in the Extreme Martial Grand Tournament, he now had a total of 5,500 true elemental dans. Even he heaved an emotional sigh while thinking about how a true martial realm martial artist possessing so many true elemental dans. He intended to take some time and find some rare spirit herbs. Refining those into dans would be very useful. Little girl, I want to purchase some herbs for refining 5 elements true elemental dans. Where would I be able to find them? Chen Shang asked with a grin. As long as there was no one else present, he would very casually refer to his martial nephews and niece. The 5 elements true elemental dan was ordinarily given to martial artists who were simultaneously cultivating 2 or more types of true qi. It was more useful than the true elemental dan. However, its herbs were relatively rare and also quite expensive. In the market, it could be bought for more or less 200,000 crystal stones. In the Qinwu mainland, martial artists that cultivated multi-attributed true qis were very rare. These individuals were all very talented and would be vigorously nurtured by sects. This was also why the 5 elements true elemental dan was very expensive as well as scarce. Elder Dan already knew that Chen Shang had the yin and yang divine veins and cultivated the 5 elements true qi. That was the only way Huang Jishan would fancy to take Chen Shang as his apprentice, therefore, the fact that he wanted to refine this kind of dan was also not that surprising to her. Currently, I also don't know. In other words, the herbs for this dan is very rare, I'll keep my eyes open for them. Elder Dan replied. Although she and Chen Shang often bickered, their relationship was pretty good overall. Thanks, at that time you can ask for any price freely. Your martial uncle is currently overflowing with wealth. Chen Shang chuckled and said. Elder Dan lightly scoffed, don't be captured by others, your bounty has already reached 10 million crystal stones now. Plus, a lot of people knew you had obtained many giant monster dans and a big chunk of the hell spirit grass from the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. As such, it will be even more dangerous for you. Chen Shang was not worried about it, he just had to be a little careful, as long as his whereabouts were not found by others, he had nothing to fear. Little girl, can you do a small favor for me? Chen Shang suddenly remembered something. Just say it, help me get 3 building foundation dans and the 9 sun flames fruit from the Lu family. Chen Shang said with a grin, little girl, I have a seed of earth core divine fruit. I'm not afraid to tell you, the thing I gave you to eat was precisely the pulp of the divine fruit. Elder Dan's tender body trembled, her chest was heaving up and down. She was clearly stunned, she asked in a heavy voice, is that true? Just as Elder Dan's question fell, a fist-sized red gemstone-like thing appeared in Chen Zhang's hand. It looked very beautiful, with a flame burning at its center. I'll help you get the betting stakes from Lu family. But you have to keep in mind, don't plant this divine fruit for now. Wait for me to better reinforce the extreme Dan King Courtyard's array and defense first. Also, you absolutely cannot allow anyone about you possessing the heavenly sun fire spirit. Elder Dan turned very serious. Only after exhorting him again for some time did she leave. Who in the end is she? Did I tie some past life knot with her? Chen Shang rubbed his chin. He was more and more curious about this Elder Dan. He suddenly felt that the relationship between him and Elder Dan had become more intimate. Chen Shang laid on the ground under the shade of the azure profound tree. Sunlight shone upon his eyes through the leaves. As he saw the sunlight, suddenly something clicked in his mind. Sister Mei Yao, does the heavenly sun fire spirit belongs to fire spirit of creation? Chen Shang hastily stood up and asked. Both the purple moon fire spirit and the blue star fire spirit could bring flames of life to the mortal world, which was why they belonged to the category of fire spirits of creation. Definitely, can't you tell that most living things are inseparable from the sun? The reason why spirit chi in the world can be constantly produced is greatly due to the sun. The blue star fire and purple moon fire can breed out Earth's life, and these flames came from sun itself. Therefore the heavenly sun fire spirit is far stronger than any other fire spirit. However, you've only fused with it recently, and the fire spirit is also at its infancy. Su Meiyao replied. Chen Zhang's eyes rotated and said, when I release the flames, it has a certain aura, isn't it very similar to sunlight? If so, then I can also breathe some life. This may be ill-advised, but I assume you have to first sense the life force in the fire spirit, and then attempt to extract this energy. Perhaps by combining it with the wood attribute true chi, the dragon saliva created would have far better effects, but this is just a guess. Some excitement could be detected in Su Meiyao's voice. The dragon saliva exercise in the divine exercise of the four symbols was already something that defied heaven. It was truly an earth-shaking phenomenon that this exercise could create a growth-accelerating essence. Furthermore, it also had a strength-enhancing effect on the cultivator exercising it. If it was coupled with the powerful life force bred out by the heavenly sun fire spirit, wouldn't it be even more fearsome? Chen Shang immediately calmed down his heart, relaxed his whole body, and began searching for the life force in the heavenly sun fire spirit. The heavenly sun fire spirit was already fused with his body, and it would gradually grow with the absorption of the world's spirit chi. As the fire spirit grew up, it would eventually start self-generating energy. At that time, Chen Shang would have a steady stream of flames, and it would even be possible to nurture a fire spirit. Although the dragon saliva exercise could accelerate the growth of spirit herbs, Chen Shang still felt it was not enough. For instance, if he wanted to make azure profound tree bear azure profound fruit, he needed to create dragon saliva for a good few months, then he needed another month to irrigate it. During this period, he further delayed his cultivation. Of course, if other alchemists came to learn about his thoughts, they would scold him to death. He still had the audacity to say this was not enough. There was no end to a human's greed, and Chen Shang was no exception. His divine sense flowed throughout his body, looking for the life force in the heavenly sun fire spirit that had fused with his body. Unconsciously, 2 days already went by, before suddenly his eyebrows started twitching in excitement. He had found it. The life force was coming from a golden soft and bright mist. It was very, very small, and hid itself inside a flame element grain. It must be known that in various parts of Chen Zhang's bodies, his bones, blood, and meridians, there were many very small flame particles. This was due to the aftereffects of fusing with the heavenly sun fire spirit. As long as his soul wasn't destroyed, these mystical flame particles, along with his cultivation, would continue to be produced. When he would release the flames, these particles would bestow him the powerful flames. Chen Shang immediately operated the dragon saliva exercise and began congealing the dragon saliva. He constantly absorbed the life force inside these particles. After the spirit chi entered his body, these particles would once again produce this life force in a steady stream. That was why he didn't stop extracting this life force. Half a day passed, as Chen Shang finally opened his eyes. He took out a small cup and opened his mouth. Immediately after, a big ball of liquid surging with golden light fell from his tongue into the cup. At this time, Chen Shang was extremely excited, because he was successful. However, he still didn't know what the effects of this thing was. I was actually successful. Ha ha. Good, I'll call it golden dragon saliva. Chen Shang looked at the golden liquid inside that small cup with delight. It probably had about 40 drops. He was already under the Azure Profound Tree, and he definitely wanted to test it on the Azure Profound Tree. Chen Shang estimated, this Azure Profound Tree would take at least 3 years to bloom once again, and even if the dragon saliva was used, it still needed at least half a year. However, he could use this to properly test the effect of the golden dragon saliva. Chen Shang poured the golden dragon saliva in the small cup on the roots, as it was all instantly absorbed by the Azure Profound Tree. From Xi'an Sha World, Chapter 192, Golden Dragon Saliva, Part 2. Chapter 192 Golden Dragon Saliva, Part 2. The golden dragon saliva in the small cup was absorbed in the blink of an eye. This made Chen Shang and Su Meiyao extremely astonished. If it was the Azure Dragon saliva from before, it would still need to be poured bit by bit, in order to help make the absorption efficient. If poured too much all of a sudden, it would take a lot of time and much of it would be wasted. TLN. Yi Xiao Bei de Huang Jin Long Xian Shun Jian Ju Bei Shi Shou, Jie Rang Shen Shang A Su Mei Yao Do Jian Jing Buyi, Yao Shi Ji Qian Na Zhang Qing Se de Long Xian, Hai De Yi Dian Dian de Ku Di, Ru Guo Yi Sha Zifang Duola, Jie Shi Wei Le Yu Li Yu Shi Shou. I think author made some mistake in typing and missed a line, so I added a line considering the description author made in the previous chapters. If the absorption was faster, it meant that the quality of the dragon saliva was better, it could facilitate the spirit herbs to grow faster. When he cultivated the dragon saliva exercise before, he still needed to dilute it with water. Chen Shang immediately raised his head and looked above, he couldn't help but quiver in excitement. He saw 40 small buds, and only with pouring everything at once, it already made the tree blossomed. Moreover, it also doubled the amount from before. Chen Shang calculated for a moment, if he used a small cup of golden dragon saliva every day, it might be possible for him to make the tree bear fruits in a month or so. It blossomed once again. Elder Dan just came back. She felt the Azure Profound Tree seemed different. She raised her head to look and immediately saw 40 small azure lanterns like buds. This Azure Profound Tree from the start made her unable to understand its existence, and made her even more unable to understand how this Azure Profound Tree could bear fruits so quickly. If this continues, it won't be long before it bore fruit once again. Chen Shang grinned, I just woke up and I suddenly saw it blooming again, ha ha. I soon will have 40 Azure Profound fruits. Looking at that proud appearance of Chen Shang, Elder Dan was very jealous. This tree was really too strange, so she doubtfully asked, did you do something to this tree? The Azure Profound fruits have a lot of spirit chi. To bear fruit, it needs to absorb a lot of spirit chi, right? It is never so fast. The Azure Profound tree indeed absorbed a lot of spirit chi. The golden dragon saliva altered this tree, allowing the tree to absorb spirit chi quicker. It extracted all the spirit chi from deep underground. So, since Chen Shang used the Azure Dragon fruit to breed out this tree, the tree had been madly absorbing spirit chi day and night. In other words, Chen Zhang's dragon saliva transformed the veins of these flowers and trees thicker, and simultaneously, it made these flowers and trees have spiritual vein, which could quickly absorb spirit chi. Especially the moment when the dragon saliva was poured, the rate of absorption was the most. The efficacy of the golden dragon saliva was even more, because it contained elemental life force in it. This was something which came to existence in primeval period, and even now, various living beings cannot do without the life force inside the sunlight. I'll tell you, but only if you let me take a look at your true appearance. Chen Shang, after thinking for a while, replied. Humph, I will not let you look. I'll make you curious to death. Elder Dan tenderly snorted and said. Now, the only way she could feel a little better was thinking about how her true appearance could make Chen Zhang's heart itch. She once again asked, what you said is true. Did you truly do something? If so, then the ability Chen Shang grasped is truly too heaven-defying. If those forces hunting fire spirit came to know about it, Chen Shang would be in a lot of trouble. Chen Shang pursed his lips and said, I trust you, that's why I'm telling you. However, you do not trust me. Why don't you let me see your true appearance? Likewise, I'll not tell it to anyone. Elder Dan was startled in her heart, however, she coldly replied, I won't let you see my face, I've got my own reasons, rest assured, I have not arrived at the point of stupidity and tell about this to others. I've resolved your things, you still need to be careful, the Lu family hate you to death. Elder Dan threw a storage pouch to Chen Shang. Chen Shang took the storage pouch and chuckled, That day, Elder Dan had witnessed the bet, so it was certainly normal to go and help Chen Shang acquire the betting stakes. Besides, Chen Shang was living in the extreme Dan King courtyard, and the Liu family was not unable to give. However, Liu family, in order to not to pay the stakes, had already lost 2 second-level true martial realm martial artists, and that was very serious for a family. Its worth was far more than the betting stakes. It was as if they had tried to steal a chicken, and only ended up losing the rice used to lure it. 9 Sun Flames fruit was the main ingredient for refining the profound Sunfire Dan. This was an ingredient for high-grade profound level Dan. Although it was only one, it was still very precious. Chen Shang, looking at that bright red fruit, could not help but grin, getting it was not totally a waste of effort. After Elder Dan left, Chen Shang began operating the dragon saliva exercise, creating that golden dragon saliva. 3 days passed and the azure profound tree bloomed once again. It was now exuding an azure brilliance, looking very beautiful. Early morning, the first ray of sunlight shone, and Chen Shang had a knowing smile. He left the martial courtyard, fully knowing that the azure profound tree will bear fruit very soon, so he now went to look for Yun Xiaodao and others. Almost 10 days had passed since Yun Xiaodao and others ate the pulp of the earth core divine fruit. They had already woken up. They had already been waiting for Chen Shang, and seeing Chen Shang had arrived, they instantly bombarded Chen Shang with questions about the pulp. However, Chen Shang only told them that he obtained a fruit in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. Considering I gave this good thing to you, you should tell me, in the end, what did you pick up again? The elevation of your cultivation is not slow. Chen Shang asked with a smile. Zhu Rong laughed and said, nothing, our luck is just good. We found a large chunk of top-grade crystal stone. Afterwards, these 2 guys sold some of it. Most of the time, middle-grade crystal stones were used for trading. Both high-grade and top-grade crystal stones were anyhow never used because they were very rare. What the high-grade and top-grade crystal stones contained was not the spirit chi, because after the compression, the spirit chi inside them was already transformed into pure true chi. Just a thumb-sized top-grade crystal stone had such a large amount of true chi, that it could make martial artists rapidly cultivate after absorption. Do you want? I can sell you some. Zhu Rong laughed. No need, you can use it for yourself. I can now refine true elemental Dan. I am not lacking with regards to resources for cultivation. Chen Shang smiled and said. Right, now should be the start of the allocation of the martial courtyards. Let's go take a look. Yun Xiaodao slapped his head, because he realized 10 days had already passed. Chen Shang waited Yun Xiaodao and the others to fully clean themselves, and afterwards, they arrived at a huge square. Everywhere in the square, the martial courtyard allocation list was being announced. Only 15th martial courtyards. A martial courtyard actually have more than 1,000 disciples. How can I bear this? And also together with a bunch of mortal martial realm disciples. Unhappiness was clearly visible on Yun Xiaodao's face. All 4 of them were allocated in the same martial courtyard, and it was something to be rejoiced about. Wu Qianchen is also there, elder brother Chen. Hey, Yun Xiaodao smiled very sinisterly. I and she are both from the extreme Dan King courtyard and already meet regularly. What about it? Chen Shang gave him a blank look. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys moonlight first. Isn't that young girl already received by you? Zhu Rong said with an evil smile. TLN. Idiom. Taking advantage due to being close to some influential figure or due to some circumstances, as here both stay in extreme Dan King courtyard. Don't talk nonsense. She and I are just friends. Chen Shang looked at some martial courtyard related rules. Among them, a rule made him somewhat depressed. Every year, one must complete a task, otherwise, they would be thrown into the hell martial courtyard to accept punishment. At this time, Shu Weilong suddenly shouted, look, Lu Zhengnan is also with us in the same martial courtyard. This is going to be exciting. I also see a lot of famous young true martial realm martial artists' names. There are also many family disciples' names. Some of these families have grudges with you. Zhu Rong also nodded his head. Mortal martial realm disciples have nothing to fear as long as they don't enter the true martial realm. They are never going to be treated as family. However, if it was a true martial realm disciple, in the family, they will be the same as treasure. Chen Shang, finally now you have appeared. An angry shout suddenly came from far away. Chen Shang was slightly surprised. This was Lu Zhengnan's voice. Chapter 193, Betting Head. Chapter 193 Betting Head. Because of Lu Zhengnan's negligence, he made his family lose 3 building foundation dans and a 9 sun flames fruit. How could it be possible that there were no repercussions? At this moment, his hate for Chen Shang had reached an extreme peak. Was the previous loss still not miserable enough for you? Chen Shang grinned as he indifferently replied back. In the square, there were many people. Upon seeing such a spectacle, their spirits were suddenly stirred. The martial courtyard's new rule states that as long as the strength is about the same, no challenge can be refused. It was made to have better exchanges between disciples. Lu Zhengnan clenched his fists. With a fierce look in his eyes, he glared at Chen Shang. Obviously, Lu Zhengnan wanted to challenge Chen Shang. Both of them were true martial realm martial artists, and the extreme martial sect's martial courtyard system had just been changed, ushering two true martial realm martial artists into a fierce battle. This stirred up the crowd's spirit once again. If you want to challenge him, you have to go through me first. A middle-aged man suddenly walked over and stood in front of Chen Shang. This caused Chen Shang and others to be slightly surprised. This middle-aged man with an extraordinary bearing was precisely Yao Haisheng, the apprentice that had been cheaply taken in by Chen Shang previously. Mr. Yao, why would you act like this? Lu Zhengnan obviously recognized Yao Haisheng. Although everyone knew Yao Haisheng was Chen Zhang's apprentice, they didn't take it seriously, it was only treated as a joke. Moreover, many people respected Yao Haisheng a lot. After all, he was a level 3 alchemist. For many years in various alchemy competitions, he was among the top, one of the high and most notable figures. His alchemy talent was not bad, and had quite the reputation in the alchemist community of the extreme martial province. He is my teacher, Yao Haisheng dismissively replied. If it was before, he was far too embarrassed to say so, however, now it was different. At the moment, Chen Shang was not only a true martial realm martial artist, he was also a level 4 alchemist, an entire level higher than Yao Haisheng. Although it was only one level, the difference was like heaven and earth. He wouldn't be ridiculed for having such a teacher now. Chen Shang smiled and said, Haisheng, you've been in closed-door training all this time, what are the results? As a teacher, I've been far too busy these past few years and had no time to guide you in alchemy, please forgive me. If Chen Shang said so in the past, it would surely be laughable. However, now no one dared to laugh, because now he possessed the qualifications to speak like this to Yao Haisheng. Now Yao Haisheng was already convinced in heart and by word. He had finally accepted Chen Shang as his teacher. Naturally, Chen Shang was also happy to receive such an apprentice, because he wanted to establish his own influence, and as an alchemist, Yao Haisheng met the requirements to join and help bolster Chen Zhang's forces. This apprentice has been concentrating on the true elemental Dan and the white jade Dan. I can barely refine true elemental Dan now, it's just that I don't have enough herbs. Yao Haisheng respectfully replied. Chen Shang was able to refine the true elemental Dan and the white jade Dan, and also of very high quality. This alone made Yao Haisheng feel reverence. Chen Shang nodded his head, took out a storage pouch and handed it to his apprentice. He slightly smiled and said, these are 50 set of herbs for both true elemental Dans and white jade Dans, take them and practice. You don't need to intervene in my matter. Yao Haisheng was stunned, everyone looked dumbfoundingly at the storage pouch. Everyone wanted to know whether those things were truly there or not. Chen Shang could actually be so generous, and gave away so many herbs in one shot. Yao Haisheng took the storage pouch, just after he injected his divine sense to look, his whole body quivered. Repeatedly in a quivering voice, he expressed his gratitude. Everyone looked on and thought that it was not a false scene. In their hearts, they secretly guessed that Chen Shang must have obtained many good things in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. This led them to have greedy looks in their eyes as they looked at Chen Shang. Lu Zhengnan, you want to challenge me, right? Do you dare to bet once again? Chen Shang said with a happy smile. With a ruminating look, he looked at Lu Zhengnan, who was still dazed in surprise. I just want to challenge you, exchange pointers with you in martial arts. Lu Zhengnan wanted to bet, however, he had nothing to bet. Chen Zhang's complexion changed, became extremely gloomy. Time and time again, the Lu wanted to kill him. He had already decided to pay them back tens of hundreds of times over. You can bet you head, are you going to bet or not? If you lose, I'll cut off your head. If I lose, I'll give you my head. Chen Shang sneered, my head is worth 10 million crystal stones, do you agree or not? Wasn't this gambling their lives? In other words, a life and death battle, which was allowed in the sect. However, it seemed Chen Shang was getting shorter end of the stick, because his head was worth 10 million crystal stones, while Lu Zhengnan's was worthless. Chen Shang had already noticed earlier that Lu Zhengnan had entered into the second level of the true martial realm. However, the true qi within his body had also changed a lot, it was a lot stronger than before. Lu Zhengnan suddenly madly started laughing, ha ha. Don't think you'll always be the winner, I admit I don't have anything else to bet with you, however, I have this life to bet. This time, I'll definitely recover everything I lost along with interest. Chen Shang coldly smiled, silently said in his heart. Lu family, I'll first kill off Lu Zhengnan, and then officially declare a war on you. With Lu Zhengnan's head, I'll declare that I, Chen Shang, am not so easy to bully. Tomorrow morning, extreme martial dazzling Sun Valley. Lu Zhengnan coldly spoke and then turned around and left. The extreme martial dazzling Sun Valley was a valley inside a mountain range on one side of numerous martial courtyards. The ground in this valley was very sturdy, furthermore, this valley was fully covered in arrays. Even if true martial realm martial artists fought here, it was very difficult to destroy. This place was actually given to true martial realm martial artists for competitions. Zhu Rong began gathering some information about the Lu family. Meanwhile, Yun Xiaodao and Shui Weilong began searching for true martial realm disciples with no background, or some 10th level mortal martial realm disciples with good qualifications. These were the kind of people they wanted to rope into their new force. Chen Shang, along with Yao Haisheng, went to Yao Haisheng's residence in the Extreme Dan courtyard. Chen Shang guided his disciple in refining true elemental Dan and white jade Dan. Which for him, was a very easy thing to do. After all, the other person had called him teacher, he certainly had to act as a teacher should. Chen Shang passed down his experience in refining true elemental Dans and white jade Dans. Through his clear and simple guidance, Yao Haisheng learned a lot and benefited greatly. This made him admire Chen Shang even more. The elders of the extreme martial sect also gathered together to discuss the facilitation of disciples' effort and cultivation methods. Chen Shang always felt the extreme martial sect did such in order to deal with the besiegement of other sects, or anything else in that matter. Chen Shang had also entered the true martial realm for quite some time, however, he still had not seen those legendary, divine martial skills, the heaven-level martial skills. This was also one of the extreme martial sect's core confidential secrets. Ordinarily, one must wait till they entered the true marital realm. After advancing, if they had dedicated themselves towards the extreme martial sect to some extent, only then would they be able to learn one of these skills, or if they had a teacher, their teacher could impart these skills onto them. However, now the rules had been modified. As long as the individual got approval from the extreme martial sect, they could get the divine martial skill. It's just that the approval standard hasn't been introduced yet. The next morning, Chen Shang arrived at the extreme martial dazzling Sun Valley. The mountainside around it was already filled with a large audience. Once Chen Shang came, Zhu Rong, Yun Xiaodao and Shui Weilong rushed over. Younger brother Chen, Lu Zhengnan's forces cannot be overlooked. He has a very powerful teacher. That teacher of his has unclear antecedents, but he had mastered the dragon martial technique. I think Lu Zhengnan had also learned it. Zhu Rong said in a low voice. TLN. Hi guys, the fact is I was too busy past few weeks, a lot of work was pending so didn't have the time to translate any chapter. But now I'm free and will try to make up for the lost chapters slowly. Thank you for your support, hope you're enjoying the novel. On another note, we have also edited and TL'd all previous translations. Chapter 194, Evil Dragon Martial Technique. Chapter 194 Evil Dragon Martial Technique. Once Chen Shang heard these three words, Dragon Martial Technique, a glimpse of a smile appeared on his lips. He was fearless of the Dragon Martial Technique because he cultivated the strongest of them all, the Tai Chi Subduing Dragon Exercise. As long as he understood the depths of the Tai Chi Subduing Dragon Exercise's mysteries, not only would he be able to restrain all other Dragon Martial Techniques, he could also create new Dragon Martial Techniques. Ever since yesterday evening, Zhu Rong had been investigating all night. He wanted to know why Lu Zhengnan had so much confidence. Zhu Rong had not expected Lu Zhengnan to actually have a dragon martial technique as assurance. In the eyes of the Chiwu mainland's martial artists it was something sacred, it was on a similar level to those divine martial skills. Lu Zhengnan had already arrived, he wore a golden tight light armor. With one look, it was quite clear that the rank of this armor was not bad. If one possessed this sort of defensive equipment, they would be able to block a part of attack, and the individual would avoid getting seriously injured during a fight. King Scale Armor, a 7th level spirit equipment, this guy is pretty rich. Shu Weilong coldly said, squinting as he looked at Lu Zhengnan. In order to compare notes better, the usage of weapons were not allowed during the competition. However, armor and defensive equipment could be put on. Last time, Lu Zhengnan lost to Chen Shang in alchemy. However, Lu Zhengnan was very confident in regards to his strength. Although he knew that Chen Shang crippled a ton of true martial realm martial artists in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm, that was under the situation where Chen Shang was able to use his true chi, while other could not. Lu Zhengnan believed that he could also have crippled all those people under the same circumstances. Yun Xiaodao and the others had already left the martial arts field, going halfway up the mountain to watch the fight. They also looked all around them but still didn't find any elders present. Chen Shang, you will not have any chance to regret your actions because you will definitely die today. While shouting, Lu Zhengnan's eyes turned red. That originally white face of his was completely covered in black qi, a few black facial muscles bulged out, his appearance truly looked grim. Suddenly, an evil qi surged out from Lu Zhengnan's body, making Chen Shang retreat a few steps back. Looking at this appearance of Lu Zhengnan, Chen Zhang's complexion turned incomparably heavy. In his heart, he was even more shocked. This is the evil dragon martial technique. It's a skill that was created as a result of modification of dragon martial technique by some devil path martial artist. This kind of dragon martial technique is very harmful to people. It is harmful for both the cultivator and others. At the early stage, the cultivator would not be able to notice anything wrong, furthermore it would grant a giant boost to their strength. However, if the cultivator is able to reach the later stages, then the cultivator would basically cease to exist. They will first lose their conscience and then become an extremely evil person. Bai Yuyu said with a surprise. From the very beginning, she was a cultivator from Devil's Path. She had a very deep understanding in regards to most things related to Devil Path. This Lu Zhengnan's evil dragon martial technique gave a scare to Chen Shang and everyone else present. Then next scene gave even more of a shock to everyone as both of Lu Zhengnan's hands suddenly turned pitch black. Afterwards, they slowly started swelling, transforming into two pitch black dragon claw. The tip of the claw was very long, looking very grim and frightening. Chen Shang, it's time for you to die. Lu Zhengnan's voice had turned a lot more hoarse. It seemed as if a ferocious beast was talking. At this point, his appearance was very frightening. There were dark scales bulging out on his face, each filled with that black qi. Combined with those dark grim dragon claws, it was quite a frightening scene. Looking at Lu Zhengnan, his appearance was similar to that of a beast man. People felt a surge of nausea, and felt fearful of the evil qi shrouding the valley. Chen Shang felt a hostile true qi filled with evil intentions locking onto him, arising a sense of crisis in Chen Zhang's mind. What kind of teacher does he have? The technique his master passed down actually turned him something like this. Chen Shang secretly thought. At this time, a black mist suddenly flew towards him, followed by a gust of wind. He felt a ruthless and tyrannical force approaching. With an electric flash, Chen Shang dodged sideways. If he was even a little bit slower, he would have been struck by those pair of dark dragon claws. Although he had the black tortoise adamantine armor, he would inevitably be seriously injured facing such a terrifying evil true qi. This evil dragon martial technique indeed could allow the cultivator to become very powerful. Chen Shang secretly sighed at the burst of power that came from Lu Zhengnan just a moment ago. While Chen Shang was startled, Lu Zhengnan leapt over like the wind. He fiercely stretched out a claw towards Chen Zhang's face. 5 sharp claw tips shining with a cold glint pierced through the air like 5 sharp knives accompanied by a powerful burst of qi. Chen Shang once again dodged sideways, however, that powerful blow still drew 2 bloody scratches on his face. Lu Zhengnan was very quick. Just as Chen Shang had dodged, Lu Zhengnan once again launched another barrage of onslaught. With those incomparably hard and indestructible dark dragon claws, he attacked Chen Shang. In that way, it was equivalent to Lu Zhengnan using 2 powerful weapons to attack Chen Shang. Meanwhile, Chen Shang wasn't able to use his weapon, and for the past while he has fallen under the wind. Chen Shang leaned his head once again and dodged sideways. Those rainstorm-like sharp claws flew right at him even though he was moving very rapidly. His figure had already disappeared from the field, yet Lu Zhengnan was still able to determine his position accurately. After Lu Zhengnan turned half-beast, his 5 senses were elevated by many folds. It was very difficult to deal with. Lu Zhengnan had gathered a lot of true qi on his arms. As a result, whenever he drew an attack with his hideous arms, he was able to gather a large amount of force and momentum. In that way, his sharp claws became even more powerful. At this moment, the ground was fully covered in claw marks as a result of the lingering chi waves released from each strike. This guy is actually faster than me. Chen Shang was secretly shocked in his heart. Although it was only a tad bit faster, it rendered him unable to fight back. Once Lu Zhengnan's onslaught broke out, his power and speed was something to reckon with. It even made some 3rd level and 4th level true martial realm martial artists in the audience ashamed of themselves. But those who truly understood what was going on were actually scared by Chen Shang. Because despite facing this kind of terrifying onslaught of dragon claws, he only had a few scratches on his face, nothing more. Chen Shang was basically uninjured, his breathing remained stable, and there was not an ounce of panic on his face. It also appeared that under such circumstances, he was also slowly getting familiar with Lu Zhengnan's rhythm. Though Lu Zhengnan's attacks appeared very fierce, you could say that Chen Zhang's defense was even more formidable. After having no visible results even after attacking for such a long time, Lu Zhengnan was running out of patience. Suddenly, he emitted a gloomy roar as a black evil chi surged out from his body. Both of his arms expanded rapidly in size as scales started popping out on his arms. His appearance became even more grim, his whole body became bloated and larger. Once again, the sight of this transformation made the scalp of onlookers tingle. "I want your head." Lu Zhengnan smacked out another palm, however, a lot faster than before. The sudden change in speed caught Chen Shang off guard, however, he had very rich battle experience. In that instant, a water screen appeared guarding his head. Despite this, he was still sent flying from the force of the dark claw and that water screen just bursted under the pressure. After Chen Shang was smacked away by Lu Zhengnan, he transformed into a black silhouette chasing down his victim as his dark claws stamped down on Chen Shang. Chen Shang escaped with a quick roll as a chi cover shrouded his entire body. This was the Black Tortoise Luo Tian cover and had extremely powerful defensive capabilities. Although Lu Zhengnan's blow failed to hit Chen Shang, the entire ground was smashed from that one strike, the entire valley shook as a tremor through the ground. Such a powerful blow, yet Chen Shang had managed to dodge it. Lu Zhengnan was extremely furious. He uttered an insane howl once again and smacked a palm downwards at the rolling Chen Shang. This palm strike caused another sudden tremor to run through the ground. It was clearly evident how powerful Lu Zhengnan's attacks were. The ground beneath Chen Shang was completely crushed and sunk in. Nothing happened to Chen Shang, but his Black Tortoise Luo Tian cover was scattered into pieces from the attack. While Lu Zhengnan's palm strike was coming towards Chen Shang, he also stretched out his arm that had been covered in a light mist and grasped Lu Zhengnan's ankle in a counter-attack. Suddenly, crackling sounds were heard, followed by a furious howl from Lu Zhengnan. Chen Shang had used the profound aura finger, the formidable martial technique capable of easily destroying spirit weapons just by pinching them. At this time, Chen Shang had already stepped into the 2nd level of the true martial realm, and with his terrifying universal true chi, he completely crushed Lu Zhengnan's ankle. When Lu Zhengnan's ankle was crushed, he felt indescribable pain coursing through his leg. With the sudden impulse of intense pain, Lu Zhengnan spewed out blood. That bloated grim body of his was slowly getting smaller. Chapter 195, Duel. Chapter 195 Duel. Lu Zhengnan's ankle was crushed and it was an extremely painful experience. He was furious and fiercely smacked a palm towards Chen Shang. Lu Zhengnan pounced with all his strength, aiming directly at Chen Zhang's head. Chen Zhang's response was very fast. He raised his hand and welcomed those grim clams with his own palms. The two palms struck each other and erupted with a thunderous sound. A sudden tremor ran through the ground, thereby shaking the valley. Lu Zhengnan let out another painful howl. His huge grim palm was completely covered in blood. When Chen Shang extended his palm a moment ago, he used the profound aura finger and the shocking heaven palm simultaneously, 2 earth-level martial skills. Not only did his blow pierce through Lu Zhengnan's palm and completely crush it, a terrifying and powerful chi also entered his body through the palm. This terrifying and powerful chi passed directly through Lu Zhengnan's arm, shaking it from the inside out and crushing it inch by inch. His arm dangled by his side, rendered completely useless. Just a few seconds had passed, yet Chen Shang had successfully counterattacked, messed up Lu Zhengnan's rhythm, gained the upper hand, and crushed Lu Zhengnan's arm and foot. As a result, Lu Zhengnan completely lost his sanity and howled over and over, turning even more ferocious. Relying on his remaining foot, he leapt towards Chen Shang. Lu Zhengnan's other palm smacked towards Chen Shang. Those 5 sharp claws on that hideous palm were completely covered in an evil and frightening aura. Chen Shang didn't dodge, he mobilized all the Azure Dragon True Chi in his body instead. His arm was immediately covered in Azure True Chi and transformed into an Azure Dragon Claw. The Azure Dragon Claw and the Dark Dragon Claw struck each other, appearing evenly matched. However, Chen Xiang had released all of his Azure Dragon True Chi and his blow was a lot stronger compared with Lu Zhengnin's. Both claws collided with each other and the entire valley fiercely shook once again. A thunderous sound rang throughout the horizon, immediately followed by a blood-curdling scream coming from Lu Zhengnin. His entire arm had disappeared. Chen Zhang's Azure Dragon Claw swept through everything in its path and blasted everything to smithereens. Lu Zhengnin reverted back to his usual state. Chen Xiang couldn't help but admit that if he was not careful a moment ago, he definitely would have been squeezed to death by Lu Zhengnin's frightening claws. When he had turned half-beat half-human, his strength and speed increased exponentially. Especially that explosive force, it even left Chen Xiang with a lingering fear. Chen Xiang, you're also in second level of the true martial realm. Lu Zhengnin's complexion turned completely pale from fear as he panickingly looked at Chen Xiang. Lu Zhengnin originally believed that after he strided into second level of the true martial realm, and also learned such a powerful evil dragon martial technique, Chen Xiang would not pose any threat. How could Lu Zhengnin have known that Chen Xiang also entered the second level of the true martial realm, and he would be so powerful despite being in the same level? In addition, Chen Xiang still had the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade. His strength was unfathomable. He had once used that blade to behead third-level true martial realm martial artist when he was only in the first level of the true martial realm. Suddenly, True Chi rushed out from Chen Zhang's left arm, transforming into a blade shape. A weapon created from vigorous True Chi would also be very sharp. Depending on how rich the True Chi was, the weapon formed could also be a lot more formidable and could even be compared with some spirit weapons. Chen Xiang, you cannot kill me. Lu Zhengnin was panic-stricken, as he hastily shouted. Chen Xiang gave him a deadpan look. While Lu Zhengnin was still processing Chen Zhang's response, he had already appeared in front of Lu Zhengnin in a flash. Chen Xiang waved that broadsword of True Chi, hacking on Lu Zhengnin's neck, and completely separated his head. Looking at the head tumbling on the ground, with the wide-opened eyes filled with fear belonging to Lu Zhengnin, everyone present felt horrified in their hearts. Especially some true martial realm martial artists, compared to those mortal martial realm martial artists, they had a deeper understanding of the battle, and Chen Zhang's strength gave them a huge shock. More than 20,000 disciples came to watch the fight. When they saw Lu Zhengnin being killed, everyone broke into hubbub. After all, Lu Zhengnin was a rare talented true martial realm disciple of the extreme martial sect, not to mention he was also an alchemist. Furthermore, he also had the famous Lu family from the extreme martial province supporting him. Now that Chen Xiang killed Lu Zhengnin, there was no doubt that a ridge had been forged between Chen Xiang and the Lu family. Just as Chen Xiang bent down to pick up the storage bracelet belonging to Lu Zhengnin, a loud shout, "Zhengnin!" was heard from far away. Just as the shout resounded, Chen Xiang felt a burst of powerful qi approaching him. He instantly jumped back to dodge, while a trembling old man appeared next to Lu Zhengnin's dead body. Lu Shang. He was precisely that elder Lu who had viciously acted against Chen Xiang that day. Chen Xiang didn't expect elder Lu to actually make an appearance now. Chen Xiang, did you do this? Lu Shang faced Chen Xiang and shouted, sounding extremely furious. He and I bet our heads. He lost, so I cut off his head. Chen Xiang dismissively said. At the same time, he was secretly mobilizing his true qi. He feared Lu Shang would launch a sneak attack. Regardless of anything else, one must know that Lu Shang was a lot more powerful than Chen Xiang. Lu Shang glared at Chen Xiang and roared, Chen Xiang, you have already won our Lu family's 9 Sun Flames fruit along with 3 building foundation dans, how can you still act like this? You're actually still being so unreasonable and killed our Lu family's rare genius. Ha ha ha, Chen Xiang suddenly broke into laughter, old mongrel, you are already clear about the matter and still came here to bark lies. It was him who first challenged me, furthermore, the knot between me and your Lu family is already impossible to unravel. The last time I left the extreme martial sect, your Lu family sent 2 second-level true martial realm martial artists to assassinate me. Fortunately I had a good weapon, and it was the only reason I was able to turn the tables, and kill those 2 guys. Upon hearing this, Lu Shang's heart was shaken. The Lu family's 2 second-level true martial realm martial artists were killed by Chen Xiang. This made Lu Shang even more angry. Seeing Lu Shang's sore point had been pricked, Chen Shang continued speaking, your Lu family didn't want to pay up those betting stakes, and thought of killing me again and again. When I managed to deal with the people sent by you to assassinate me, you still attacked and seriously injured me last time in the Black Tortoise Mountain, forcing me into the netherworld abyss. Fortunately, my luck was not bad, and I was able to come back alive. Chen Shang, don't make slanderous accusations. Fell down into the netherworld abyss and was still able to come back alive. Speak only if you have evidence. Lu Shang retorted. His voice was loud. After everyone around them heard, they were all very surprised. However, most of them were suspicious regarding Chen Zhang's claims. Anyone who fell down into the netherworld abyss truly had never come back out. Chen Shang had already guessed Lu Shang would rather die than admit his crimes. Chen Shang once again sneered and said, take your Lu family's genius corpse and go, he seeked his own death. The anger in Lu Shang's heart had already reached the boiling point. He roared, Chen Shang, you are provoking our Lu family again and again. Not only did you trick Lu Zhengnan into a betting fight with you using sinister tricks. You also slandered my Lu family. I'll kill you, I simply cannot forgive you. Lu Shang became resolute in his heart and swooped over towards Chen Shang. Lu Shang punched out as a deep and strong true qi overflowed from his arm. Striking through the air, crackling sounds could be heard as a thick layer of soil was scraped off from the ground from the resulting wind. This was the strength of 9th level of the true martial realm. It was several times more powerful than Chen Zhang's blow. Looking at that terrifying punch coming from Lu Shang, everyone believed Chen Shang was dead, without any exception. Just as they expected Chen Shang to become a pile of meat from the punch, he actually also punched out. He attacked like lightning. His strength was also very powerful. Accompanied with the explosion of true qi from the fists was a fierce wind that smashed everything in its path into pieces. Wasn't Chen Shang in the 2nd level of the true martial realm? Now he actually had strength equivalent to the 9th level of the true martial realm. Chapter 196, Thunderbolt Cut. Chapter 196 Thunderbolt Cut. Chen Shang originally intended to dodge the attack. However, in that instant, he felt a very powerful strength coursing from his left arm. The source of this tyrannical might was Long Shui, that little dragoness. Beforehand, Long Shui said that at an appropriate time, she could lend Chen Shang some of her power. It was just that the might of this strength was totally out of his expectations. It actually allowed him to approach the power of someone in the 9th level of the true martial realm. Two clashing forces of vigorous true qi collided with one another. A tyrannical typhoon of wind came from the impact, accompanied by a burst of dazzling aura. A fierce tremor ran throughout the valley, shaking everything present. The gigantic martial field was completely covered in countless cracks. Chen Shang and Lu Shang both flew out from the resulting explosion. Both of them spewed out blood from the recoil. Lu Shang didn't expect Chen Shang to actually erupt with such fearsome strength and was completely unguarded, suffering heavily from the recoil. Meanwhile, Chen Zhang's strength was lent by Long Shui. The rest of his body was still the same. Facing that fearsome recoil, he simply had no way to resist. After Chen Shang fell onto the ground, he quickly swallowed a small piece of the Hell Spirit grass, along with a true elemental Dan. At this point, his injuries were not in any way light. After swallowing that piece of Hell Spirit grass, he immediately took out the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade. Little Dragoness, how long can you hold on for? Chen Shang asked. He was very much in need of Long Shui's strength. I can still hold on for some time, however, you need to act quickly. Long Shui said in a serious tone. She understood what Chen Shang was currently planning to do. Chen Shang fiercely wiped off the blood from the corner of his mouth. He quickly refined the true elemental Dan, replenishing his consumed Azure Dragon true qi. At this moment, he also secretly released the Black Tortoise Adamantal armor and hid it under his cloth. This way, he would have far better defense and didn't need to worry about getting physically damaged. Just a moment ago, both fists colliding resulted in the sand and stones flying out from the valley. Essentially, a sandstorm was billowing in the valley, making it very difficult to clearly see what was happening. Carrying the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade, Chen Shang confirmed Lu Shang's location using divine sense and rushed straight towards him. A moment ago, Lu Shang had punched in pure rage and he also completely hated Chen Shang. That's why no small amount of strength was put into that punch. If Chen Shang was struck unhindered, he would be crippled, if not dead. It was also because of this that Lu Shang suffered a larger recoil and thereby had serious injuries. Within the billowing sandstorm, Lu Shang was sitting on the ground and felt an oppressive presence approaching him. Elder Lu had a very rich battle experience and instantly jumped into the sky, dodging the sudden attack. The ground was shaken once again and Lu Shang was able to see Chen Shang chopping down that powerful azure giant blade from high up in the air. If Lu Shang had not dodged in time, he would definitely be cut in two. That blade blow from Chen Shang gouged out a deep ravine onto the ground, like a straight brook. As he realized that his blade had missed its target, he quickly turned around, and fiercely leapt towards Lu Shang. He didn't expect Chen Zhang's reactions to be so sharp and also instantly sensing where to go. Humph! Chen Shang coldly snorted. The Azure Dragon True Chi fiercely surged into the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade. That huge blade body glittered with crackles of lightning, erupting with wave after wave of oppressive lightning force. The sky turned dark and also began crackling with lightning, emitting a billowing thunderous noise. As Chen Shang raised the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade high into the sky, thunderclaps reverberated in the sky. Suddenly, numerous thick lightning bolts fell down from the heavens, directly landing on the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade. This was the thunderbolt cut from the Dragon Slayer's 7 killing cuts. It guided a large amount of lightning force into the blade, which would be all released upon attacking the enemy just like a fierce thunderbolt. At this moment, Chen Shang had also absorbed a large amount of lightning in his body. If he didn't reach the second level of Immortal and Devil body, there was no way he would be able to guide such a large amount of violent lightning force. As he sensed Lu Shang's location, Chen Shang raised his blade and arrived before Lu Shang with lightning speed. That terrifying lightning coursed throughout the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade. This kind of oppressive strength was extremely suffocating. At this point, all the lightning force contained in Chen Zhang's body completely erupted. Released from its imprisonment from the hacking down of the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade, the lightning was completely unleashed. An earth-shaking thunderclap resounded. That sudden thunderous sound reverberated in the entire Tianmen city, scaring the daylights out of everyone. Old mongrel, I said I will pay you back tens upon hundreds of times. Chen Shang shouted in his heart. That Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade strike was similar to a thunderbolt, striking directly on Lu Shang's body. Hacking downwards, that violent lightning force burst open, blasting Lu Shang into pieces. That terrifying force of nature was completely unleashed through the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade, hacking towards the ground. A frightening powerful chi accompanied with lightning like a furious dragon ran parallel to the ground and struck on that faraway mountain. The force pierced straight through that mountain, blasting open a huge cave. The extreme martial dazzling Sun Valley was limited for fight between those beneath the 6th level of the true martial realm. Any fight between participants above the realm needed approval from the elders. Yet now, Chen Shang with Long Shui's support, erupted with a strength equivalent to someone in the 9th level of true martial realm. Many were not able to see what occurred in the mountain valley, however, they were able to sense Chen Shang executing a fierce attack. A few true martial realm martial artists who had pretty good eyesight were able to clearly see that earth-shattering strike from Chen Shang. That formidable blow gave them a big fright. They were left completely dumbfounded. The sand in the mountain valley slowly dispersed. Everyone saw a somewhat embarrassed Chen Shang clasping a two-edged domineering broadsword, standing alone inside the valley. Which also had an extra big gully gouged out, passing through a faraway mountain and even a new cave inside that mountain. Chen Shang heaved a long sigh. At this point he was very tired. However, he was still extremely excited. Although the strength he released a moment ago was lent to him by Long Shui, it still made him feel extremely satisfied and carefree. Noticing that new broad, deep and long gully, everyone was stunned and left speechless. What made them even more astonished was that Lu Shang was nowhere to be seen. There were only some charred rags left lying on the ground. Had Lu Shang been killed by Chen Shang? Lu Shang was from the Elder Courtyard. Although he was only in the 9th level of the true martial realm, he was still high and lofty in the eyes of many. Now he was blasted into pieces. Chen Shang had killed an elder of the extreme martial sect. How did he do it? Did he have strength comparable to the 9th level of the true martial realm? Everyone thought it was impossible, otherwise, he would have easily killed Lu Zhengnan. However, many people soon associated that brutal lightning bolt from before with Chen Shang drawing support from a savage force of nature to attack. The whole valley was deadly silent, before erupting into hubbub of discussions and screams. Ultimately, everyone was still having a hard time believing Chen Shang was able to kill Lu Shang. This time, he is in deadly trouble. He has killed an elder. That is definitely a grave sin. Chen Shang is truly a frightening guy. There should not be a 1 in a million chance anyone will provoke him now. He truly is worthy to have a 10 million crystal stone bounty. At such a young age, he is so powerful. That broadsword is definitely a brilliant grade weapon. It must be. Everyone had different opinions, however, everyone lamented. Yun Xiaodao, Zhu Rong and Xu Weilong were good friends of Chen Shang, but they were still scared speechless. Originally, they all believed they had shortened the gap between them and Chen Shang. However, now they felt that they were unable to keep up. What happened? Wu Keiming flew over from far away. Just a moment ago that thunderclap reverberated in the radius of 10,000 li. All high-level members of the extreme martial sect were disturbed, wondering what on earth was going on. Ji Yu Dongchen, Elder Dan, and many other old men soon arrived. These people were all from the Elder Courtyard. At the same time, many powerful martial artists flew over in the sky. As they stopped, the whole mountain valley was enveloped in a terrifying aura. Numerous powerful martial artists of the extreme martial sect had gathered here, and released their true chi to protect themselves to avoid being sneak attacked. After all, disturbance from beforehand here was very big. The legs of some no-good mortal martial realm martial artists turned soft from fright as they slumped down on the ground. Why is it you again? Ji Yu Dongchen heaved a long sigh after noticing Chen Xian. Chapter 197, Boosted Reputation. Chapter 197 Boosted Reputation. Those martial artists of the extreme martial sect came to the extreme martial dazzling Sun Valley in a rush, and after glancing over everything in the valley, all of them were suddenly scared. The bricks in there, through a special means, had been reinforced. They were very difficult to break. However, now the valley was in ruins, especially the deep gully crossing over the whole mountain valley and piercing through the mountain far away. This made them even more shocked. Chen Shang, what happened? Ji Yu Dongchen asked in a heavy tone. He observed Chen Zhang's current appearance, and he knew he must have experienced a great battle. There were not many who could make Chen Shang look like this. I killed Lu Shang and Lu Zhengnan. Chen Shang, carrying the giant blade on his shoulder, looked at those remaining pieces on the ground, before he continued speaking, and you are stepping on him. Ji Yu Dongchen was surprised for a moment, and he subconsciously looked down. Those true disciples who had also just arrived lowered their head to look. Indeed they could find many charred pieces on the ground, and in their heart, they were even more alarmed. Chen Shang could kill Lu Shang. What a joke! Lu Shang was but a martial artist from 9th level of the true martial realm. Killing Lu Zhengnan would be just about right. Many knew about Lu Zhengnan and Chen Shang betting their head. Killing Lu Zhengnan was truly nothing. However, Lu Shang was not that easy to kill. Is this your doing? Wu Keiming doubtfully asked as he looked at the ruined valley. Chen Shang received the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade, stretched his exhausted waist, before he said, Lu Shang first acted against me. He started ruthlessly, and he clearly wanted to take my life. I was forced to fight back. Furthermore, he had repeatedly tried to kill me. Now I have killed him and you also cannot blame me. Believe it or not, it is all up to you. After he finished speaking, Chen Shang, with large steps, left, while Ji Yu Dongchen and the trio didn't leave. The other true disciples and elders also didn't leave. They observed the traces left on the ground. After finding Lu Zhengnan's corpse, they buried it. Afterwards, they called many of those disciples who had witnessed the battle, and inquired about the details of the battle. After half an hour, Ji Yu Dongchen, the trio, and those elders got to know the whole matter, and those true disciples were also shocked, because Lu Shang was indeed killed by Chen Shang. Chen Shang had killed Lu Shang who was in the 9th level of the true martial realm. This matter shook the whole extreme martial sect. Everyone in the Tianmen city were talking about it. In the Tianmen city, there were many squads who had arrived beforehand to kill Chen Shang, but after confirming the information was indeed true, one by one they left. Even a 9th level true martial realm martial artist was killed by Chen Shang. They have not even reached the true martial realm, and even those who had, they had just strided into the true martial realm. Weren't they just seeking their death? However, some people didn't leave. They believed Chen Shang had killed Lu Shang by luck, because they heard that during the fight, a lightning suddenly flashed, and Chen Shang had relied on this lightning to kill Lu Shang, which made the whole matter seem plausible. Otherwise, with just a 20-year-old inexperienced brat, it would be absolutely impossible to kill an elder at the 9th level of the true martial realm. Many of them took a firm stance with this statement, otherwise, it would give everyone a very big blow. Chen Shang, at that time, had relied on Long Shui's strength and casted the Thunderbolt cut from the Dragon Slayer's 7 killing cut, inciting the lightning, and only with the lightning force did he cleave that strike. Chen Shang had made an appearance after disappearing for 3 months, and suddenly did such a big thing. This disturbed the entire Chenwu mainland. Before, many families and sects were seeking for Chen Shang and didn't find him, and now they knew Chen Shang was in the extreme martial sect. One by one everyone came to seek Chen Shang because Chen Shang had crippled many true martial realm martial artists in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. It was similar to cutting off a piece of meat of many families. Quickly pay out Chen Shang. This guy's heart is as poisonous as snakes and scorpions. He definitely must be cultivating some demonic evil skill, that's why he is so powerful. He is not righteous. In the Black Tortoise mysterious realm, he had crippled a true martial realm junior of my Li family, who we have nurtured him with a lot of effort. A middle-aged man yelled. These families had spent heavily to nurture their juniors. Afterwards, they sent them to major sects, made them grow stronger, before calling them back to the family. These true martial realm martial artists were very important for these families to grow magnificently. Correct, your extreme martial sect is the first sect of the Chenwu mainland. However, you are harboring this villain. Quickly make Chen Shang come out. Until Chen Shang is not dead, we will not leave. He is a devil who crippled more than 100 true martial realm martial artists. We will definitely hack him into pieces. Quote. Many people have gathered at the entrance of the extreme martial sect, swearing and screaming. They didn't mention in the slightest bit that these true martial realm disciples first tried to rob Chen Shang, as if Chen Shang, for no apparent reason, had crippled off those true martial realm martial artists. After Chen Shang killed Liu Sheng and Liu Zhengnan, he was resting for a few good days in the extreme Dan King courtyard. Because Liu Sheng first acted against Chen Shang didn't suffer any repercussions for killing him. And, the most important point was, Ji Yu Dongchen and Wu Kaming confirmed Liu Sheng first planned to kill Chen Shang. Although many large families came here to crusade against Chen Shang, however, the extreme martial sect's disciples felt Chen Shang brought fame to the extreme martial sect, and hence, it resulted in conflict between the beast martial sect and the true martial sect again and again. Chen Shang had crippled many true martial realm martial artists all at once, and this brought a great satisfaction to the disciples of the extreme martial sect. Many people knew Chen Shang crippled those disciples because they wanted to rob Chen Shang, and that was the only reason he acted. Otherwise, why would he even cripple the disciples of the extreme martial sect? And this point have been confirmed by many true martial realm disciples of the divine weapon Heavenly Empire. And regarding this point, Lu Menger strongly defended Chen Shang. Thence, those disciples of the divine weapon Heavenly Empire testified. These guys' mouth are filled with virtue and morality, as if these crippled guys were saints. These bastards wanted to rob me. I was too lazy to even act against them. I'm truly regretting not silencing those guys. Chen Shang was extremely furious. From a crystal ball, he could see those guys at the entrance shouting. What are you up to? Elder Dan looked up at those beautiful flowers blooming on the azure profound tree. You better stay here honestly, let these rumor pass. Chen Shang slapped his thigh and repelled. No way, I'm going to go out. You go and call Little Bald, you two accompany me outside, take a look at how your martial uncle play with them. Chen Shang had returned to his peak, however, Long Shui was still resting. She had eaten half of the earth core divine fruit from the netherworld abyss, and only due to it was she able to advance by leaps and bounds. What are you going to do? Elder Dan asked. Soon you will know how I will resolve everything. However, I'm worried about those shameless guys. At that time, I might get attacked. That's why you and Little Bald have to come and pressure them. Chen Shang raised the corner of his lips as a sly smile appeared on his face. Seeing that smile of Chen Shang, Elder Dan knew someone was in big trouble. Wu Kaming had arrived. He didn't recommend Chen Shang to face those noisy guys seeking trouble, however, Chen Shang insisted on going. He obviously could not defy his young martial uncle, and in order to suppress those people, Wu Kaming called many true disciples of the extreme martial sect. There were some who had surpassed the true martial realm. Although they were not going to fight, they could always give their support in gaining prestige. Chapter 198. A man's heart is incomprehensible. Chapter 198. A man's heart is incomprehensible. As the gate of the extreme martial sect opened, those originally loud screams suddenly all quieted down. After the gate was opened, a mighty pressure pressed down upon them, making those people quickly retreat at least a few steps. Suddenly, many people surged out from the gate. Furthermore, each and every one of them was very strong. The crowd couldn't help but be worried. If the extreme martial sect, regardless of righteousness, arrested all of them and killed them, then their families wouldn't have any say in the matter. The majority of those who came to crusade against Chen Shang were high-level figures of various families, even the patriarch and elders of families came. Their strength was above the true martial realm, but now faced with so many powerful true disciples from the extreme martial sect, they lacked self-confidence in their hearts. At the same time, they were secretly shocked at the strength of the extreme martial sect. Chen Shang also didn't expect Wu Kaming to actually call a good 20 to 30 true disciples. Also, many of them were stronger than the 9th level of the true martial realm, a few of them were even in extreme realms. Such a lineup was very scary, the crowd was nearly scared to death. Those who came to crusade against Chen Shang noticed the masked elder Dan as well as a bald man with white eyebrows and a beard. All of them quivered and they were all suddenly drenched in a cold sweat. These were two of the top figures in the extreme martial sect, and Chen Shang walked beside them. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Elder Dan and Wu Kaming, these level of figures, actually stood up for Chen Shang. This made everyone hesitate. Weren't you all looking for me? Some things are better said in person. If I remember correctly, I didn't kill those people, just crippled them. It shouldn't be that difficult for them to personally come here. This matter is between me and them, make those people come and stand in front of me. Let's take a look at who's to blame. Chen Shang coldly said. With both his hands behind his back, he stepped forward and gazed over those people. You better not talk nonsense. The disciples of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire have confirmed that your people had wanted to rob Chen Shang first. Him crippling them is also a matter of course. Wu Kaming sneered. He stared at those people. Just one glance of his made these people not dare to release their anger. Chen Shang loudly shouted, "Speak, why are you not speaking now? Before didn't you all curse me very enjoyably? Said I was Devil Lord, said I was unethical, said I was evil. This is equal to slandering me." While speaking, Chen Zhang's slaughtering heart following his mood fluctuations and erupted with a tremendous amount of slaughter chi. These people were suddenly extremely scared and alarmed, and quickly retreated even further. According to the junior of my Li family that you crippled, you attacked him for no reason whatsoever. He didn't even try to rob you, he only stayed on the island to explore for treasure. A middle-aged man took a deep breath, and spoke loudly, "The Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire's disciples are not speaking the truth, I think you've brought them over to your side." Others also steeled their hearts as they all started shouting one by one. "If you didn't hurt our children for no reason, we wouldn't have posted so high a bounty for you." Exactly, your extreme martial sect is relying on numbers for advantage, this is savage and unreasonable. Chen Shang, you better give us an explanation. Chen Shang frowned, and said in a heavy tone, "You call those crippled guys of yours over, I'll give everyone a satisfactory explanation. Don't expect us to do that. Is it not enough that you have crippled them? You also want to stab and poke at their wounds?" A man shouted. Elder Dan, Wu Kaming and the others only observed because Chen Shang said he wanted to deal it himself and didn't need them to intervene. They also wanted to take a look at how their young marshal planned to deal with these guys in the end. Chen Shang suddenly took out a building foundation Dan, and said, "This is a building foundation, whoever admits that their people wanted to rob me, I will give this building foundation Dan to them." That crowd of people suddenly quieted down. Everyone glanced at each other, having some hesitation. Although these people hadn't seen a building foundation Dan before in their lives, they had seen a few pictures in the book. They also knew that Chen Shang had won 3 building foundation Dans from the Lu family. A single building foundation Dan was worth a good few 100,000 crystal stones. If given to a 10th level mortal martial realm martial artist, it could even allow them to enter true martial realm. If it were auctioned, 5 to 600,000 crystal stones was nothing difficult to obtain. Although these families could afford a few 100,000 crystal stones, the building foundation Dan was a rare Dan with no definite market price. At this point, all of them were faced with a great temptation. Seeing these people completely silent, Chen Shang again took out another building foundation Dan and coldly smiled. 2. If someone admits their own family member wanted to rob me, I will give them these 2 building foundation Dans. There are so many people in here as witness, I will absolutely not go back on my words. Upon seeing this, Elder Dan secretly clenched her teeth and quickly transmitted to Chen Shang, "You might as well as give these 2 building foundation Dans to me, I will help you deal with them." Chen Shang replied back, "I'm not someone who will suffer loss, little girl, just see how this martial uncle will deal with them." Suddenly a middle-aged man shouted, "I admit that our family disciple indeed fabricated the facts and deceived me. Just a moment ago, After thinking about it, I felt his words had a lot of flaws and the divine weapon Heavenly Empire's disciples are honest. What they said should be true, and indeed our family disciple wanted to snatch your treasure first. This man's words made many people curse him in their hearts. Just a moment ago, this very person insisted that Chen Shang had crippled family member for no reason. However, now for 2 building foundation dans, he completely turned his back on his family member. They didn't expect this man to actually be so thick-skinned. Chen Shang smiled, so you are not going to pursue the matter? That man nodded, not going to be pursued. They were already crippled, to pursue this matter would also not result in any better conditions. All he had to do was just say few words and he could get 2 building foundation dans, why not do it? What is your name? I'll have to remember which family is speaking and that they're not going to pursue me. Chen Shang asked. I'm Li Chong from the Li family of the true martial province. I'm an elder of Li family, and can make Li family not dwell on this matter. That middle-aged man immediately replied, while staring at those 2 building foundation dans in Chen Zhang's hand. Before, the ones who cursed most fiercely were the members of the Li family. However, now they were also the first to change their stance. Chen Shang already knew these people came here to ask for compensation, because he had a lot of precious things. These sorts of people had long been eyeing them. Chen Shang relying on money to prove his innocence was also a normal thing to do. Chen Shang happily smiled and said, good, these building foundation dans are now yours. However, you have to remain here. As the 2 building foundation dans Chen Shang threw over landed on Li Chang's hands, his hands slightly trembled. He had lived for so long, yet it was still first time touching the building foundation dans, moreover, 2 at once. The extreme martial sect's members were also very surprised, they had not expected Chen Shang to actually use this kind of method to resolve the problem. This made them quite disappointed, at the same time, they also felt their hearts ache. 2 building foundation dans were so cheap to this young man. Chen Shang, the Li family is Li family, and our Luo family is different. A middle-aged man suddenly shouted. He was very envious, he didn't expect this Lu Sheng to actually be so fast to speak. Even more so for him to be so thick-skinned, as well as obtaining 2 building foundation dans. One by one, those people started shouting. Chen Shang slightly smiled, and took out 4 building foundation dans. The instant these 4 building foundation dans appeared, everyone continuously rushed to admit their family disciple was wrong at first, and wanted to rob Chen Shang. A good 50 to 60 people had come. Of course, Chen Shang would not give all of them building foundation dans. Instead, Chen Shang just smiled and said, thank you everybody for proving my innocence. After he finished speaking, he retrieved those building foundation dans. Those people were dumbfounded. At this time, they remembered that Chen Shang hadn't expressed that he would give them these 4 building foundation dans like before. Moreover, because they were worried other people might get in front of them, they all hurried to admit their own junior's fault. Chen Shang grinned and said, rest assured, I won't let you go back empty-handed. I will reward those 4 building foundation dans for the head of Li Chong. As long as someone kills him, I'll give them these 4 building foundation dans. Chapter 199, Inducements. Chapter 199 Inducements. 4 building foundation dans. It was but worth 2 to 3 million crystal stones and was actually given as a reward for one true martial realm martial artist. It was very generous, even rewards of those major sects was not so much. When Li Chong heard this, his complexion suddenly changed. He immediately raised his guard, in his heart, he was cursing Chen Shang. While the others had deathly stares at Li Chong, they were considering whether or not they should act. The bounty on Chen Shang was in itself 10 million crystal stones, but now, no one dared to move their hands against him because Chen Shang was at the entrance of the extreme martial sect. If Chen Shang was outside, these people would have already swarmed him. Li Chong is mine, an old man coldly said as he took out a long blade. Cold chi started overflowing from the long blade continuously, and the crowd could not help but spread out. Wang Lu, are you serious? Li Chong was slightly startled as he loudly shouted. At the same time, he slowly and vigilantly retreated. Chen Shang, in his heart, was laughing. He knew all these people came from the same place, and all of them belonged to various great families. As long as they were part of a great family, there would always be some kind of conflict between them. It was to the point that even some of them could not wait to find an opportunity to finish each other. Elder Dan, Wu Kaming and the other elders could not help but praise Chen Zhang's methods. However, Chen Shang had now taken out 6 building foundation dans, and this was not worth the candle. Of course I'm serious. Your Li family originally had enmity with our Wang family, so what if I kill you? Wang Lu made a sinister laugh, and, with a very unusual step, he instantly arrived beside Li Chong. He waved that long blade bursting with cold qi in his hands and fiercely cleaved downwards. At this moment, a gust of cold wind blew towards all 4 directions. Everyone could not help but shiver from the cold. Chen Shang noticed that Wang Lu was in the 3rd level of the true martial realm, meanwhile, Li Chong was in the 2nd level of the true martial realm. There was a great disparity between them. No wonder Li Chang's complexion was full of fear. In just few seconds, Li Chong was hacked by 3 blade strikes. However, his wounds were devoid of blood, they were sealed in ice, and fortunately, all of this happened in front of the entrance of the extreme martial sect, which had plenty of space, allowing him to cast his skills. Under normal circumstances, there would always be a large gap between 2nd level and 3rd level true martial realm martial artists. A 2nd level facing someone at the 3rd level would be completely suppressed and could do nothing to fight back. During the battle, Li Chong could do nothing but dodge, and even escaping was not an option. Of course, if it was Chen Shang, this abnormal facing a common 3rd level true martial realm martial artist, the scenery would be completely reversed. If Chen Shang used the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade and the Black Tortoise Adamantile Armor, almost all ordinary 3rd level true martial realm martial artists wouldn't be able to do anything but wait for their demise. Wang Lu, I, Li Chong, even if I die, will not let you have it easy. Li Chong viciously shouted. Regardless of that fleeting strength released from the long blade, he still punched out, and as the long blade's thrust came over, he blasted a punch at Wang Lu's dantian with all his might. A burst of qi waves broke out, shaking the ground from the aftershock. Meanwhile, Lu Chang's chest was also pierced. Wang Lu had not expected Li Chong to actually exhaust all of his strength before death, opting to ruthlessly punch him. He retreated a few steps while blood flowed out from the corners of his mouth. After the cold qi from the blade pierced Li Chang's body, everything in his body was frozen by the cold qi. He was already frozen to death. Wang Lu pulled out his knife from Li Chong and retrieved the 2 building foundation dans. Afterwards, he covered his abdomen and coldly smiled. Although he suffered some serious injury, he still earned big time. In addition to the 4 building foundation dans from Chen Shang, he had altogether 6 building foundation dans, so he felt killing Lu Chong was totally worth it. Seeing this frightening scene, although many were lamenting in their heart because of the death of a true martial realm martial artist, many were actually more jealous. Wang Lu had obtained 6 building foundation dans, and if it was used with caution, even 3 true martial realm martial artists could be nurtured. All of them hated themselves for being weaker than Wang Lu, otherwise, they would have already acted. All these people before came united to crusade against Chen Shang, however, now they were fighting among themselves for the building foundation dans. They were brutally killing each other, and it was evident that in these people's eyes, the interest of their family was more important. Wang Lu came in front of Chen Shang and said, I killed Li Chong, my reward. Chen Shang took out 4 building foundation dans, and after pondering for a moment, he said, before I give you, I want to ask you a question, and you have to answer me honestly. Or else I will not give it to you. Wang Lu frowned. From his wrinkled face, it was evident that he was slightly angry. He coldly replied, ask. Did you know that I crippled those true martial realm martial artists only because they wanted to rob me? Chen Shang was intently observing Wang Lu. No, Wang Lu, after thinking for a while, replied. Chen Shang sneered, so now are you also going to hold me accountable for crippling your Wang family disciples? I am not going to hold you accountable. Are you going to give me the building foundation dans or not? Or is it you're going to go back on your words in front of so many people? Wang Lu in his heart was extremely furious. Don't worry, I'll give it to you, I just wanted to prove my innocence. I ask you, a while ago, you and Li Chong had the most conspicuous voices, you called me devil and all sort of things, why are you suddenly not pursuing the matter anymore? So to say, you were slandering me before, right? Chen Shang asked. I admit, before we have truly slandered you, but then. Enough. Chen Zhang's voice became heavy as a monstrous slaughter qi suddenly surged out from his body. Everyone only saw an azure flash, before a blood fountain shot out as Wang Lu's head fell on the ground. Blood dripping from the azure gant blade, while Wang Lu's body and head was lying in a pool of blood. Chen Shang actually killed Wang Lu, This action of his was totally out of everyone's expectation, even more so for Wang Lu. That was the only reason Chen Shang was so quickly able to behead him. Chen Shang coldly smiled and stared at those people who came for him. In the end, he had slandered me. You all have heard him admitting himself that he had slandered me. These people's hearts started beating rapidly. They could not help but be horrified. From Wang Lu's headless corpse, Chen Shang retrieved the 2 building foundation dans. Looking at his actions, everyone could not help but admire his methods. At first it appeared he had lost the building foundation dans, however, now he not only prevented himself from suffering any loss, he had also made these people admit themselves from their own mouth that he did nothing wrong. At the same time, he had also made Wang Lu kill Li Chong, and at last, he had a just cause for killing Wang Lu. Previously, when I took out 4 building foundation dans, you said so yourself that your family's juniors were at fault first. Are you still not going to leave? Or is it you want to stay here to join too on their funeral? I don't mind killing a few more. Chen Shang, with a deadpan look, glanced at all of those people. Things have been resolved. Previously, you yourselves have admitted to the fact that your disciples were wrong, and you also said so yourself. You no longer held Chen Shang accountable. All of us have clearly heard it. Wu Kaming said in a clear voice. If you dare to lie, then don't blame me for not being polite. Don't harass my extreme martial sect's disciples. Elder Dan's voice sounded cold, it was brimming with slaughter chi. These people moaned and groaned in their heart. However, they felt they were a lot better than Wang Lu and Li Chong, at least, they were not dead. All of them had previously thought Chen Shang was a young and frivolous guy. However, contrary to their expectations, his subtlety was too deep, and just with few actions, he had neatly solved everything, not to mention the fact that they also could not refute anything anymore. After returning to the extreme Dan King courtyard, Chen Shang laid on a couch and looked at those flowers glittering in azure aura on the azure profound tree, waiting for the tree to bear fruits. Elder Dan also often came to visit. Those were but 40 azure profound fruits, and an extremely rare fruit at that. However, now the speed of their growth was even faster than ordinary fruits. Chapter 200. New Extreme Martial Sect. Chapter 200 New Extreme Martial Sect. I say woman, why have you been visiting a man's house alone so frequently? Even more so tightly covered. Chen Shang teased upon seeing Elder Dan came again. Humph, this extreme Dan King courtyard is my domain. Wherever I want to go, I'll go. Elder Dan retorted with a cold snort, before raising her head to look at those azure profound flowers. She have been waiting for them to bear fruits. Chen Shang smiled and said, don't look, they are not yours. As the owner of this tree, I'm not worried. Why the fuck are you so anxious? I can look at the flowers, can't I? Elder Dan replied. Do you like these flowers? I, your martial uncle, can pick one for you. Chen Shang said. As he was about to jump, Elder Dan hastily stopped him. Don't. One of those flowers is equivalent to 1 azure profound fruit. After realizing Elder Dan was really in need of the building foundation dans, Chen Shang asked, why do you need so many building foundation dans? I have my own reasons. Elder Dan replied in low voice. She looked around for a bit and then left. Chen Shang looked at those beautiful azure flowers before jumping and picking one. Afterwards, he left towards Elder Dan's room. As Elder Dan opened the door, she was startled for a second before tenderly shouting, you idiot, you really plucked one. Chen Shang giggled and said, you often came to see those flowers, don't you like them? This is a present from me. The flower in his hand was indeed beautiful, although it was separated from the tree, it was still glittering with an azure aura. Moreover, wafting in was a slight flowery fragrance. You, Humph, you really are an idiot. Elder Dan was extremely furious. However, she didn't know why, but she was feeling sweet and warm in her heart. If you don't want it, then I can give it to Qianchen. Chen Shang pursed his lips. As he was about to take his leave, Elder Dan grabbed him. Who says I don't want it? Elder Dan snatched that flower and lightly stroked it before taking a whiff. Though she was distressed in her heart, she was very happy as well. She was quite pleased with herself. After all, it was the first time someone was gifting her a flower, and such a precious flower at that. Take off your mask then. Chen Shang couldn't help but ask this again. He truly wanted to see the appearance of this mysterious female. Humph, Elder Dan tenderly snorted, before closing the door on his face. There truly is no payment for a good deed. Chen Shang kicked the door before taking his leave. Seeing all this, Su Meiyao somewhat jealously said, Good brother, sister has kissed your cheeks already, but I've never ever received any flowers from you. Bai Yu also coldly snorted and said, Humph, that masked woman has not even revealed her face, yet you still gave her such a gift. Long Shui also spoke in a low tone, exactly, completely biased. I've helped you a good number of times and you've not given me any flowers. A woman's jealousy was very strong. Chen Shang now finally realized this point. Even Bai Yu, this cold beauty, was like this. Hey, however, I've bought you a lot of beautiful clothes and jewelry. If you want flowers, I'll immediately go now and pluck one for you. Chen Shang replied with a laugh. Of course, Su Meiyao and others were just casually saying this, and upon hearing Chen Shang's response, they hastily stopped him. That flower was the base for the azure profound fruits. Picking one was equivalent to wasting one azure profound fruit. However, Chen Shang still plucked a few other beautiful flowers and gave to these three beauties. He knew that women would often superficially say they do not want something, however, in their hearts they very much wanted it. Every time he bought clothes to them, they always said it was enough, we have too many already. However, whenever they got their hands on the new clothes, their happiness was completely obvious. Chen Shang went over to the square with the notice boards to look at the new rules. The 3,000 martial courtyards of the extreme martial sect were completely rectified and turned into 50 huge martial courtyards. At this point, no one was allowed to go out, while everyone could only remain in their respective martial courtyards. The extreme Dan courtyard's disciples and a few other individuals with special circumstances were an exception. This was done in order to strengthen the interactions and relations between disciples. Now there were a total of only 15 inner martial courtyards. The overall strength of these 15 martial courtyards could be said to be relatively the same. However, the disciples in these 15 martial courtyards still felt somewhat out of sort. In order to boost the competition within the extreme martial sect, various new things were introduced, all of which could stimulate the disciples to strive to improve their cultivation. For instance, martial courtyards, although they did not have rankings, were divided into golden martial courtyards, silver martial courtyards and bronze martial courtyards according to the color of their number plates. Golden martial courtyards were obviously the best. The disciples of these martial courtyards were very diligent, and it was evident from the number of missions they had completed, the many awards from various competitions, and so on. Silver martial courtyards and bronze martial courtyards though were slightly worse. Holy shit, in order to get the golden number plate, the disciples of the respective martial courtyards have to complete 1,000 level 10 missions. If disciples want to become disciples of the golden martial courtyards, they have to complete 100 level 10 missions. What the fuck is this? Yun Xiaodao roared after seeing the new content on the notice board. The missions were divided into levels 1 to 10, with level 10 being the hardest. We need to complete 10,000 level -1 missions before becoming golden disciples. How can there be so many missions to complete? Looking at those numbers, Zhu Rong was completely confused. He was afraid to do any mission. In his opinion it was an unrewarding task. Chen Shang smiled and said, the extreme martial sect seems to be lacking crystal stones. In the entire Chenwu mainland, few things could tempt sect disciples to do the job. Don't expect me to do so many missions, I'll just finish one once every year, that's all. Zhu Rong was in fact very lazy. To make him do something thousands, or even hundreds of times was simply asking for his life. Every year the golden disciples will get 500 true elemental dans and 1,000,000 crystal stones as benefit. The golden martial courtyard's disciples who completes more tasks compared with the others will also get very generous benefits. Looking at this, Yun Xiaodao could not help but be astonished. Motherfucker, this father must get hold of some of the prestige of being a golden disciple. After seeing this, Zhu Rong's eyes almost popped out. The benefits golden disciples obtained were terrifying good. Xu Weilong pointed at one region and said, the level 5 missions can be taken in groups of 2 or less, level 6 to level 9 allows 50 people at most, while level 10 missions can be done by a team of 100. In consideration of our current strength, we can at most do level 5 missions. If 2 people go, it will also be very efficient. 100 people completing one level 10 missions was regarded as everyone completing once, which was rather good. They suddenly looked at Chen Shang. If they were with Chen Shang, then it would be very easy. Don't look at me. If I'm together with you, you'll only be more dependent on me, and that's not good for your future growth. Chen Shang scoffingly said, I'll go together with Wu Qianchen, don't expect me to go with you. Hoes before bros, fuck you. Shu Weilong and the trio cursed in unison. These dans simply didn't get in the eyes of Chen Shang. Whether he went or not didn't matter to him, he could get hold of a mission to refine many dans once in a while. Because of this, it would be hard to say which year or month he would be able to get the Golden Disciple title. Look here, there is also an arena ranking. 10 wins in a row and you can get the title of Bronze Warrior, get a streak of 30 and you can get Silver Warrior, a streak of 50 and there's the Golden Warrior. The Golden Warriors have the opportunity to learn divine martial skills personally from the Dean. Yun Xiaodao shouted. A winning streak of 50 is not that easy. Moreover, the arrangement of battle is done by a lottery. If someone is faced with Chen Shang or another kind of freak, wouldn't they be completely done for? Zhu Rong shook his head. Although the benefits of a Golden Warrior was rather good, achieving it was not that easy. Shu Weilong shouted, look here, this King Martial Courtyard is a special place just for outstanding disciples. As well as any bronze disciples who have the Silver Warrior title or higher. This King Martial Courtyard's chief is the Dean. Interesting. Chen Shang rubbed his chin. This update of rules suddenly made him eager to make trouble. He secretly praised these new rules of the extreme martial sect. It was indeed very difficult to inspire people to fight, but these new set of rules had indeed accomplished this. Squinted Dragon, let's make a team. Zhu Rong hand draped over Shu Weilong's shoulder, you've already seen Lao Ju's luck. Yun Xiaodao moaned, I'm in trouble, I'll need to group up with my fucking wife. Chen Shang laughed, right, you've been married for so long but none of us have seen your wife before. Best not to see. Yun Xiaodao heaved a sigh. The martial courtyards had already been reformed. Chen Shang along with Yun Xiaodao and the others entered the new martial courtyard, and arrived at the arranged place for them. It was very small, to be exact, it was a small house for a few people to live in. Most of the area was used to construct a number of arenas and a few places to practice. What made Chen Shang confused was that there were actually two very beautiful girls in here. One was Zhu Ruro, Zhu Rong's sister, while the other one was Yun Suyi, Yun Xiaodao's sister.